All right, and welcome back to the Finding Truth podcast on Unscripted Truth TV on YouTube here. Logan here with Austin as usual. And tonight we got an interesting one. A little bit, we're staying true to the name, definitely unscripted on this one. Uh, we do want to touch on a few headlines, and then I think we're just going to get into some fun back and forth about certain topics. So we'll leave it a little bit up in the air, and it'll be a surprise. We don't plan on spending too long on any headlines. In fact, I think both of us were kind of out of the loop this week. I know it was a slower headline week, but at the same time, there were some things that happened. But this week I was just busy and out of the loop, and so we'll touch on a couple things. We'll talk about the NASCAR race, I think, to start, and then maybe hit a couple headlines, and then kind of go into our main meat of the episode. And yeah, without further ado, I'll send it down to Austin. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'd say it's going better than last week. Definitely feeling better. Pretty much was feeling better on Monday already. Yeah, it has been a slower kind of week, I guess, in terms of headlines and stuff for what maybe it could have been. But there was a couple things. Kind of a interesting week here too. I know even like kind of the weather and stuff on the Ides of March here was kind of a little bit hasty. I know we had some heavy rain and heavy wind and stuff, and you even got snow down there, which I thought was weird because we didn't get any snow here. So um, yeah, it's kind of been an interesting mood this week. I guess it's kind of been kind of shifty. It's kind of like figuring things out. It's weird too because now we're also of course in the second half of March, and now it's of course it's lighter out too. You can even see behind me. You can still see it's kind of light out here. And people that don't know, if you're out in like Washington in like June, it's light out till like almost 10 o'clock at night. So it's crazy. It's like it's totally different. But yeah, it's starting to get that way now. And yeah, we're kind of crossing into an interesting time. I mean, really, we're 2 weeks away from the real start of the year. April 1st is coming. April's coming. Um, Seems like spring might be on the verge of getting here. It's going to be interesting to see how the weather really does play out. Like I said, it's kind of been a weird month. I mean, I don't know if we're going to, it seems like it's probably going to be like 40s, 50s, the remainder of it, but I don't know. It's kind of clear right now, but it's like I said, this weekend was kind of some heavy, maybe the heaviest rain or some of the heaviest rain we've had all winter long, I guess. But it's kind of been, like I said, heavy wind and kind of deceptive too. It's just been kind of quiet lately though too. I mean, like I said, the headlines this week were kind of quiet, but I think usually, I mean, every year we have major events happen in April, or sometimes you do get them in March as well. So obviously another point two tonight too is 322 will be on Saturday. So that could be something to look for this week, as Skull and Bones Day is coming up yet again. And yeah, we're just kind of coming up on some real interesting times. I know, like I said, like next, we're on, last episode was 25 and the importance of 25 tonight, 26, like, God 26 and, you know, Cobain 26 and COVID 26. It's no arbitrary number. Next episode is going to be 27, and we got 29 coming up on, we got 29 coming up on April 5th. So we have some, really, like I said, these episodes, they perfectly align the way they fall, the dates, all of it. It's perfect. And like I said, like we talked about bringing back themes, like number themes and stuff. That's something definitely to look into for the upcoming weeks. I'm sure we'll probably get some more mockery in our face. Just kind of like finding out, who won the races. Got the William right there in the middle. So go figure our winner and get that first win, and that's how it's going to go down. It's going to be Mr. William.
Absolutely. They just can't you can't run from it. The name is
No,
too potent. Uh, yeah, so I was a little bit, like I said, I didn't do a whole lot of diligent work on looking at this particular race this week, which shame on me. But we talked about it a little bit last week, and I think we even briefly talked about. I think we were more aiming at Logano to get off the schneid. I think we mentioned that, but funnily enough, a Ford driver did win, and Logano was in prime position, with about 40 laps to go or so. But you got Ford. We've talked about it every single week since the Daytona 500 that it's been Chevy and Toyota top threes, you know, each week. And so now you got an all American top three finally. Oh man. I mean, all American top on top. There's not a Toyota in sight. Bell is all the way down at a top 11. Let's go. All American, baby. We're back. It's like, but yeah, I mean, so yeah, we mentioned a Ford driver breaking the schneid potentially for this race, and that did happen. I mean, I particularly was thinking Logano, but you make a great point that Bell drives the number 20, wins 3 in a row, and now the very next driver to win is the number 21 car. It's like, what are we doing here? Are we doing some sort of like weird golden ratio, or what are we doing here?
Right, of all the cars to win, I mean that's crazy, and then to get 3 in a row, and then to get the next number to just be one up. I don't know if that's ever even happened before, where it's the streak gets broken like that, where it's that close. But yeah, and that's an interesting car number to win to, an interesting car, because the Wood brothers, that's a famous car, and like usually when they win, it's kind of interesting. There was the 2011 Daytona 500 winner, won in the 21. Wood brothers, and it was his first. I think it was his first win too, and it was on his birthday, his 20th birthday. So there's always interesting people that drive this car, and when the car does win, it's always kind of interesting, because I forget how many wins they have. I think maybe like 20 or 21 with that car, but yeah, they're an old team. They've been around pretty much forever, but it's always just that 21. Of course, Austin Jesuit 21 as well.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'll agree to these sweet cookies. Let's see. Well, they probably don't have all time too easily to check. Dang. Probably have to go to some other indexed website to figure that out. Their all-time standings.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time this car won, but this car did win the 2011 Daytona 500 with Trevor Bayne. I think that was his first win. It was on his birthday too. I think it was like his 20th birthday, but
Well, it's quite interesting.
but that William, to me, just that's got to be it. I mean, then you have William Byron, who's almost winning every week, coming home top 5 and has a chance to win every week, and then look who wins, William again. So another William.
Yeah, what's this? What was the? Oh, Williams 34 too. So, Mr. Barry is 34. His, the William equals 34. His name equals 34. Just happens to win his first race at 34 years old. And I just think it's so interesting too. It's just like these script writers, of course, the Ford Mustang Dark Horse. That just happens to be the car's name. It's just like, I mean, anybody who I don't know a lot of people with Josh Berry on their bet slips, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, that would have been interesting to see what that would have paid today too. But obviously, it's his first win, so it's what would that have been? He never won before. It's kind of like the first race. Your guy, Mr. Rob Van Dam, he
He's
just
just
jumped in
been
the car and won.
homie's just ever since I said let's go, he's just been like taking L's. But whatever. He'll finish strong. Just don't forget about him. He'll be the real dark horse. Yeah, so I mean, diving into this, other than some of the, cursory things that you can see, obviously the number 21 right after the number 20 winning. Uh, I didn't see a whole lot. And like you watched the highlights, I checked in on the race and it was a completely different top five, really, other than Suarez, who was, I think he was the pace car, right? Or did he take the pole? I can't remember who they
I
said did.
forget who was on pole. I think Logano was
Well,
started second today.
he was second. I think Suarez was first. I think that's what I saw when I looked it up. But how do I see that? Or the articles mentioned. Oh, I guess Michael McDowell. Well, he was nowhere to be found. So
McDowell.
Michael William McDowell. So let's see. What do we? Oops. The Pennzoil 400. You got that slick little 33 in there. Surprised you don't see. Actually, he was leading the. Yeah, Reddick was leading the race for. When I checked in, it was Reddick at number one, which is who I was just going to
That's
say,
what I saw too when I looked at it.
because his birthday is 1/11, January 11th.
Yeah, I looked at it on my phone when there was like 70 to go, and I think he was leading like 60 or 70 to go.
So that might have been something. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have worked out, but as there's something there. Of course, this was at Las Vegas, which lots to be said about. You have the Trump Tower, Tesla cyber truck attack thing that was in Las Vegas, correct? And
Yeah,
then you have Trump taking, at the Daytona 500 doing the pace car, and then you have news this week that he's buying a Tesla.
yep,
So there's definitely something in the there's something's cooking the books. Something's up with all of that, because it's just like, who cares? And I just want to say briefly, I think we may get into it at some point, but man, I am so sick. It's like they really try to shove the normalcy of like how they're trying to make it like a daytime talk show, like, or like they're making it like some like daytime television drama, but it's like they're trying to make everything they do seem so like upbeat and like cool and for us. It makes me so sick that people fall for anything like this. But like, before it was like, man, I feel bad that anybody falls for this stuff, but it's like shrouded. And so it's like you need like a base set of knowledge and you'll just be like, oh wow, I can see past this. But this is just right out in the open, and they're just acting as if everything like they do and say is worth so much attention, and it's so good, and it's everything is just, we're doing exactly what the American people want. This is why they put us in office. This is just like, what are you guys? Shut up. It's like, just the last thing people should want is having an update on your federal government doing things every single day. Like, holy crap, every day you guys are making moves. That's not a good thing. There's no way that's a good thing. Let's see. In a calendar year, say the federal government does 50 things. Of those 50 things, how many things made your life better? first of all, probably none of them in the grand scheme, that's all some sort of Ponzi con scheme, even if it did initially make your life better. But let's just even count the bet. Like, sure, they might give you like a kickback here or something here, but then the other 48 things were all negative. They're on pace to be doing 365 things. This is not good. With that ratio, we're looking at about 300, 42 things to be hitting us pretty hard this year. And everybody, and just the way they make it seem like it's nobody should be praising as much government as is happening right now. And they'll say, "Oh, we have to clean up the last administration." It's just like, damn, this much. I mean, I think we both know it's not really about administration this, administration that. That's all that's all garbage. They're all, I'm sure Biden and Trump are playing poker in their, blood sipping dens. Bear or anyway, not getting too in depth about it, but yeah, it's it just really annoys me. And then in suit, you have all these YouTube people taking sides right now, and I don't pay attention to it. It just hits my feed like I've asked for it. And I'm just like, I don't care about any of this stuff. I have a very succinct things that I watch on YouTube. But it's just being bombarded by all these White House press conferences and all these things, and all the foreign leaders thoughts about Trump. What's Trump doing? How's Trump doing? And then, I did actually see something that was quite interesting, and it's something to look out for. The South African, I don't I don't know if he's a majority leader of one of the parties in South Africa, but he gave a speech all about the New World Order. So it was definitely interesting. And that's where Elon Musk is from. So there's something going on there. He was talking all about, like, he wasn't saying like he liked Trump or anything like that, but he was saying that, South Africa is where it is because they purposefully like let other nations turn their back on them. Basically, like it was a confusing speech because I don't really care, but at the same time, he just kept saying New World Order, so I was like, holy shit, yeah. And he was just like, he's basically talking to a room full of black people because South Africa's kind of weird like that. It is African, but it's like because of I think Brits and like what other kind of white people moved into Africa or created South Africa. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it's an interesting thing they got going on down there. I'm sure people have heard about the whole, what is it, apartheid, and I think it was a pretty popular topic. I think during Trump's first administration was all of the white people supposedly being targeted who lived in South Africa and being like massacred in the middle of the night. I'm sure, but yeah, who really knows? But they love putting those stories out. Anyway, back to NASCAR.
Yeah, you brought up a great point though with the Trump thing though too. It's it's because you have the total uh polar opposite there, and you have the total mockery because Trump, who says he's against the electric cars and he hates the electric car idea, but then of course he has Musk in there, and obviously you know Musk ahead of this operations, doing his little puppet deed there. But then you have this like I said, Trump playing this, oh, I hate it, I don't like it, but then here he is with Musk, and it's like, oh yeah, let me promote it now. Here, I'm gonna promote it. Yeah, I'm gonna get a Tesla myself. See, it's the best thing. So you have him do this 180 in front of everybody, and people don't even see it. They don't even catch on. It's just like the ultimate slap to the face.
And it's just so, like you said, it's opposite to his whole campaigning, on infrastructure and especially the automotive sector. He's been super heavy on the automotive sector, saying about how Biden, destroyed it and he's going to bring it back. He's going to, blah, blah, blah. Well, just Teslas? Because what percentage of Teslas are made in America? So I guess that's worth checking.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point too. Like, is this going to be where that we start seeing like Tesla pushed in NASCAR and stuff, and have like Tesla NASCARs? This is where this whole thing translates, because you got to think about it. I mean, this is going to be. I mean, this is, like I said, we'll get into this quite a bit tonight about all of this, and I think this kind of fits in really well with kind of the theme as well. But
So I know they do manufacturing in the U.S., but I wasn't sure that that's where they did most of it. I know they have like something in, I thought they had something in Canada as well, because I think after the whole Nazi salute thing, they got like, I read an article about, I think that was in Canada, or maybe it was in South America. Actually, it might have been in South America. Anyway, interesting thing with the whole, I did want to say one thing too, because it comes down to these things with the whole politics and Trump thing and how polarizing it is. What they are doing, it's so funny how they sneak globalization in, because you sit there and you have these global pushers, global economic pushers at in Switzerland and the World Economic Forum, and you have Trump going in there and just giving a real severe talking to, right? Well, what's Trump doing? Bringing all these foreign leaders together, wanting to annex Greenland, wanting to take the Panama Canal, wanting to push all the Americas together, Canada and South America. What agenda does that fit? The everybody stay unique and separate, or the globalized everybody together? So which one is it? And the funny thing is you have these rallying points where it's just they know their base. They know their base is more, they care more about a win. In their mind, a win. That's why he's always saying, I'm winning. I'm winning. We're gonna win.
right,
He always says that because it's like a tick. It's just like they see these things as competitions. It's red versus blue. It's both sides do, but I'm just saying so much more, I think, on uh, the Republican side. They see this so much more of like a win versus a loss thing, and like annexing Greenland. Oh yeah, that would flex. That'd be a win. Certain things. Canada, the 51st state, that's a win. South America, Mexico, the 52nd state, that's a win. We're winning. It's just like, what would that even look like? Would Mexico want to be part of the greater America? Maybe, but it seems kind of odd that you acknowledge all of these things. You're building a border wall for what? To then make Mexico part of America and then be separated by a wall and acknowledge the cartels, but then they're American now. They're not even like,
right,
it's like, and think about that. It's like that could be like the grand scheme of all of it. That could honestly be the grand scheme of all of it, is to make them American. And now you have this like this extra level of bureaucracy that, I mean, it's already should be complicated, because where are the, it just seems so weird. Like, where are the messages from the Mexican president, the madam president of Mexico, about all these cartels? And like, just imagine if rampant crime was just bleeding into Canada. I guarantee you we would have heard about it by now. Like, we would have had to make a statement, and they would have had, they would be talking, the Carney or whatever, the new prime minister, they'd have been talking about it. And we, the American press and everything, they would have been talking about it. Oh, crazy stuff going on at the Canadian border. Americans just keep flooding over there and causing things, making trouble happen. And I'm not saying I necessarily take all this at face value. And I'm not anti-Mexican. Any that stuff does not matter to me at all. Not one iota. I'm just giving you this idea. It just seems so weird that there's not, it's supposedly verifiable what, Mexican, nationality. They are from Mexico. Mexico should lay claim to these people. You look at all these other nations, it's like, especially America, it kind of shows you how different nations are. It's like America wants they want your name attached to them. They want your barcode scanned. Like they want to own what you are. Whereas Mexico is just like, yeah, no, go and just go into other countries all you want, and we're not even going to talk about it. We're just going to pretend like it's not happening. It seems like it makes me think about what the grand scheme is these presidents have allowed this stuff to happen, from the narrative perspective. I'm not saying these things are like on the presidents at all, that they should be responsible for these things. In fact, I think this is all the biggest piece of the game is that they show you these things and they talk about these things and they say it's on us. Oh, it's on me as president to do this. They're lying to you. They're trying to get you to take responsibility off of yourself. Like, just think about all these border towns. I mean, if they really wanted something done, it would be done. It should be done. And the fact that it's not done, the world is going to play out then. It's the same thing it's like there's a micro scale of all these things. If you don't, if you have a infestation problem and you just don't ever address it, okay, the world's just going to play out. It's not up to, everything else to cater to what you want. And it's just like, who asks the rats what they want? You know what I mean? I'm not calling Mexicans rats, please don't take it that way. But I'm saying, like, in this narrative. So anyway, it's just something that's always been funny to me, that you have a crisis going on from another country, but that country who is attached to you're attached together because we're all the same landmass. These things aren't real. These lines are fake, but they just don't even ever have to barely address it. And there's nothing they have to like do about it. And apparently caravans of thousands and tens of thousands of people are just marching across their country. And they're just like, oh yeah. I don't understand, like, how does this, when you hear that and then you hear that, oh, we want to combine all of the Americas, it sounds like it was just all one big, because at the end of the day, are we going to be happy that Mexico joins us? We might be happy if we own Mexico, but will we be happy if Mexico joins us? I don't think so. I don't think, the common Trump advocate would be, on board with that. They would, but that might be what they're getting. And maybe that's why this whole wall thing was always a scheme to begin with. And that's why, because they're all in bed together. There's a reason they didn't just build the wall all the way. It's not because Joe Biden stopped it. Anybody who believes that is absolutely lost. They did this because it's like, it's you they want. It's you, the person listening, that they want. It has nothing to do with the bordering towns or anything like that. It has to do with driving a narrative and people gluing themselves to it and okaying and allowing things to happen right before their eyes and take responsibility away from themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's what you have. Look at what Trump's doing. He's changing the names of things. He's changing the names back. I mean, you had it was called Mount McKinley, then it's Denali. No, we're changing it back to McKinley. Then it's the Gulf of, it's the Gulf
America.
of Mexico. No, it's the Gulf of America. So we're changing names. We're moving things around. You just see what it is. I mean, yeah, it's just the thing is too. It's like we are at such like a deficit when it comes to everything too, because you have the real, like I said, like the head of this little monster thing they got going on with Musk, and then you have this Tesla push and everything, and yeah, it's just like we've talked about it already, just how scary it is, just these things just popping up everywhere. I mean, you can't get away from it, and I mean, what a better way? I mean, bam, this thing hits, NASCAR, then Tesla's really going to take off. It's like, I could see it definitely happening sooner rather than later. And this is something where we're going to see very soon. Everything is going to change. Everything's going to take a different direction. It probably won't even be named the same things or called the same things anymore either.
Yeah, so they've done things subtly in the past. I think that gives rise to a lot of people's, suspicion that, there's not potentially a whole lot of options and time, maybe long enough for a couple more lifetimes or whatever. But the way things ramp up, it sure lends credence to the fact that we might not have that many more generations, if you will, or decades in front of us before whatever plan these globalists have comes to fruition, or at least they attempt their plan. And in my personal frame of mind, I think that there's something natural that does happen to our world, and they kind of have foreknowledge of it, and they do their best to keep us off the boat. They've made several movies with the same idea in mind. They like to drill it into your head with the version of, with different versions of the Bible, with Noah's Ark and certain catastrophes in Egypt and certain things like that. About 90% more than 90% of the people aren't making it. So there's no point in everybody knowing about it, because that would just cause chaos, and it would put it's almost like they hide an altruistic ideal about perseverance and preserving humanity, but they don't see. I think they do see it, but they don't see how like evil it is, and how it's not up to them. It is up to them because we allow it to be up to them, but this decision is not up to them. It's not really a decision. It's hiding, and it's lying, and it's omitting. That's really what it all comes down to. I personally think our history is very young. Like our turn on this plane of existence, I'll call it, to not ruffle any feathers. But so yeah, I think it's a lot younger than, I don't believe a single dinosaur bone that there might be real bones that they even show too, but they just give arbitrary dates. Like I've joked about it before. It's just like, they know that a T-Rex was just about to shit when it died, but we don't know what's at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. We don't know what's at the bottom of even shallower oceans, which I do think we do know, but we don't know.
Right.
But science is just so far ahead. Chickens were velociraptors, of course. Duh. Everybody knows velociraptors taste damn good.
Yeah, that's why they got
Tastes
to
like
have
hot
the
sauce.
chicken nugget. The chicken nugget.
That's why Jurassic Park gets the McDonald's 50 piece every year. Nobody gets the joke.
Your little Tyson dinosaur nuggets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just there's levels to the mockery, but like I was trying to say is, I think a lot of people are noticing the ramping up and how blatant certain things are, that unfortunately it things are so. I struggle with this idea. I struggle with this concept, and I'm just going to lay it out there. I don't want to be cynical. It's just, I understand the things that I'm able to see, almost 90% of them are controlled, because that's the sphere of influence around me, because I haven't made my sphere of influence large enough with real people and their real energy and the real, knowing them and getting to know them. Funnily enough, I did just go make the rounds with all my neighbors and had a real good talk with one of my neighbors across the street. He's a cool guy. But anyway, so I'm making a point to try to do better with that. But because most of the things I say, like stuff I was just ranting about, as if, I preach against it, but yet I'm so annoyed by it, is this whole, press secretary and all their comments about the White House and all this stuff. It's like, that's what I'm seeing. That's not real. None of that stuff is real, yet you would be made to feel that it's real, especially if you don't have any cynical or any pessimistic, thoughts to you, and you're just like a good person. Because here's the truth: a good person, you're not a good person. In fact, if you walk around in this day and age and you think you're a good person, you're probably a bad person, because half the stuff you do is helping the agenda. And I'm not to sit here and sit on a high horse and say I'm a good person. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, it's such an nice and good. These things are, they're so arbitrary in this day and age. It's the last things that we need. I would love the world to be a nice world again. I think it had been at one point, but it's not. It's not a nice world. You're not fixing this stuff with nice. Show me one in one instance where anything that's ailing our world can be fixed with niceness. Go smile at somebody who, in the severe weather. Go give this guy a hug. See what that does for him. I'm not trying to be super pessimistic and cynical either. It's just, it's not realistic. It's, something has to be done in reality, and then we can focus on the kumbaya. I don't mind the kumbaya. I would much rather have kumbaya. It's just not the fix it. It might be the end result. That'd be great. If we make that our goal, sure. But to try to use that right now, rather than what needs to be done, blunt honesty and logic and truth, that's what's more important than anybody's feelings and anybody's history that is still plaguing them, things that their ancestors went through, driving what they do. Who the hell are you? How important do these people, everybody, and I'm not just picking on any kind of group, any one group, anybody who does that. I don't care if you're Irish, American, because that's a big deal. And then you have sects of American, I get that. But us clinging to these old ideas and old ideals, obviously there's stuff that's good in the history of humans. You can learn and grow from all that stuff, but to make it your whole identity, I just can't even, I honestly can't fathom it half the time. And it's just, how does anybody get through the day feeling that like that's what this world is about? It's just so strange. It's clearly not. And I'm saying it's clearly not. I'm not saying I think it's clearly not. It's clearly not. If you pay any attention to anything around you or any of the higher learning that you could possibly do, it's clearly not about your ancestry and carrying on or fighting for old ideals or anything like that. It's clearly about where you are, we're going moving forward. And I think if any group ever could have brought everybody together, they would have. It's just, that's never been on the table. We need to stop thinking that that's a possibility. That's why the globalists, they don't want us all together to come sit at a campfire. They want us all in a pen together. And when we're in that pen, we're not going to be like, oh, we're all in this together, guys. We're going to all be over here. Then the other guys will be over there. And then there's other guys that are going to be over there. And we're still not going to come together. We're not. If we all push the pen at the same time, we could knock it over, but we won't, because we'll still be all tribaled out. I think we need to come to terms with the tribalism inside of ourselves, but at the same time, unite for an idea. And then we can go back to our tribes and do whatever we want. Leave everybody alone and leave, as far as negativity, if you want to come together and do whatever you want to do, that's fine. But that world is not just going to present itself to us. We have to work for that world to ever happen. And right now we're being penned up by people with the power and the ability to pen us up. And it has nothing to do with money. And half the things they do, we go along with without any incentive to go along with it. We just, oh yeah, we better do that because Elon Musk said so. Elon, I mean, look at how smart this guy is. Have you seen his last Diablo build? It was insane. I should do what he said.
Yeah, you're 100% right, because you have to look at it. It's like I was saying, like, people don't understand how everything is multifaceted. You have so many people just looking in like one direction, and it's like they just want to check, the bottom shelf, the middle shelf. They don't want to check the top shelf. They don't want to look up or reach up, or this is the problem where we're at, because there's a lot of people that make YouTube channels, and that talk about things, and yeah, they are 100% right in what they're saying and what they're talking about, but it's there's not enough people that have the right ideas, and that's where my, like, I guess if you want to say, like, my pessimism, or my cynicalness comes from, is because I just see, like, people like us, and what we're doing, we're just too rare in this, because these other people, they just want to focus on the money. They just want to focus on doing other things, and they don't really want to get the big picture and see what this is all about, and think about the agenda and where we're going, and what they're really going to. So many people, they're in la la land. People are just they're in la la land. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, they don't. I don't know how you can't see where, it's like, what is your plan? Make a bunch of money, and build an underground bunker, and just go hide out. I mean, what do you plan on doing? Like, what are, people really thinking? Like, there's not anybody that wants to, um, it's hard to have people come together, work together, do things. I mean, you don't have any, there's no younger women in this community. There's really no women in this community. This is pretty much older women. You don't have, uh, people that really want to, like I said, people aren't about coming together, working together. You don't have that. You don't have nothing really. So yeah, and then the people that are, it's like everyone just wants to say things that are true, but they don't really want to point the finger where it needs to be really pointed, and really look at who's doing this, who runs the world. And like, well, no one else is showing you how, what's going on every level is connected. Uh, people that, it's like, look at how we've been calling the NASCAR race. I mean, we've probably been doing a better job than anyone else pretty much on the internet, because we know an agenda. I mean, there's so many angles to look at something from. I mean, you don't have to. Some people just, they want to just, focus one area, but they don't really, it's like, well, what are they really doing? I mean, most people, I don't think really, most people need to think more than they're thinking. Most people underthink, and they don't, like, think more about just life, and like, we'll get into it tonight more, like, kind of what we see, like, by like 2039, next 20 years and stuff. And um yeah, it's like, I mean, for people to sit there and say, oh well, or it's just, it's even like these debates, and I was watching Zach's stuff too this week too, and I know, like, he had his rant video, and was listening to that, and then another, he had like another video or two I was listening to and stuff. And yeah, it's just, he's 100% right, and I understand where he's coming from 100%, and I feel the same exact way. And it's extremely frustrating and annoying, because we are so close to, I mean, we're already there, but it's just like, at what point does it just, like, the gloves just finally come off? I mean, the agenda is just cycling around us. I mean, it's, um like, this is things I have to think about. Like, oh, how long is it going to be before you can even get around Austin, before you have to have a fucking Tesla, and you can't have it in their vehicle. You have to have a fucking electric vehicle, and you can't do anything or go anywhere. Like, how long is that going to be? It's like, you just see where, yeah, everybody just, they're just caught in the money game. They're just caught in the money system. They're just worried about materialism, worried about making money. They don't really have, it's just, and just live till the next event, I guess. I mean, I guess that's pretty much where we're at. I mean, it just seems like most people are living to the next event. It's just, um, they'll never be able to see what we're doing with NASCAR and everything else, how we're connecting these dots, how we're calling these races, how we're, um, putting things together. It's just, they're just locked into just one thing. And yeah, they might be right, and I do agree with them, but uh, they just don't have or care about the real picture, the big picture.
Yeah, and to add to what you're saying too, it can feel a little bit frustrating when such simple dismissal, it's so easy for some people to dismiss something. On a certain level, it's honestly pretty strange. It's just because I was into sports as much as any other person. In fact, in my immediate circle, I was probably the most into it. And because of that, because of the way my brain works, I'm not saying I'm special or anything. It's just particularly how it's a very indexy brain. It's like I remember a lot. I remember a lot of things, whether it's arbitrary or not. And I'm not saying that other people don't. I just do. And what's funny for me is I almost feel like I have two lives. I've had two lives. I had the life I lived that was like a sponge, like soaking up all of this data that I had no idea. It was just subconscious data. And then as soon as I woke up, partially thanks to Zach at the website on the screen, because like I always say, I was woke enough to understand an agenda and like certain things about it, and the lies that were being told about World War One and Two and Titanic and all these other mainstream stories and the moon landing and all this garbage. Like I get that that's happening, but I just when you don't have anywhere to point it to, you're just it's so weird that the amount of I was having a discussion about sports, and that was my main point is that like I have all these index sports things a lot amongst other things that when I woke up it's just like, oh, okay. Now it was just like hindsight times 1,000. I was able to understand why I was seeing what I was seeing when I was seeing it. I just didn't know I was seeing it when I was seeing it. I won't say that anymore. But and so I was having a discussion with my brother-in-law, and I mentioned because I called Ohio State winning. I called that to him before the first game of the playoffs started, and I said because I saw he had the Ducks game on when I went over to visit my sister and him with my family and everything, and I never really watched sports or anything, and so that it was. I can see how it's entertaining still. I could sit there and watch a game with somebody who really wanted to watch it, but I can tell you what, down to the commercials, I was seeing the mockery and all that anyway. So it was, I think, actually, it was the game before the playoffs started because it was the divisional championship. So it was the Huskies versus the Ducks, and they started talking about the paths for certain teams in the playoffs, and they mentioned Ohio State, and I was and my brother-in-law was talking to me about how downtrodden Ohio State was. They've lost like all their starters, and it's not looking good, and they just got trounced by Michigan, and the Ducks trounced Michigan, and it's just like, I'm sitting there and I was just like, the only thing I told him was like, all right, well, here's what I'm going to say. If the Ohio State gets past the first round, watch out. It's not looking good for the Ducks if Ohio State does win and they win their first game, and then two games, if they both continue to win out, they'll play each other, which they did, and the Ducks got stomped. And so he came, my sister and him visited this last weekend, and so I was, to have my little cocky moment there with him because I haven't talked to him about it. So there, I was like, "Hey, how about that? How about that Ducks game?" Because the point came up about games being rigged. And sorry, this is such a roundabout way, but I'm kind of just like storytelling mode. And he kind of gave it up to me. He was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," but he had this way of doing about, and it's not at any fault to him. I'm not trying to judge him or like make him feel any kind of way because he might watch this, but my point being is it's so easy for them to dismiss it's my hard work. Why? Who cares about what this analyst reading a teleprompter says, who goes home and probably doesn't even retain half the information about his job? Like, I know all that stuff, and I can show you why it's there now. Now I can. I couldn't before, but now I understand what I was seeing. I can tell you why I was seeing it, how I'm seeing it now, and what it all means now. Why is it so? Is it because I don't work for ESPN? Not everybody can work for ESPN. And giving credence to people who work for Disney, I, it's so weird how easy it is to dismiss somebody who is actively looking, studying, and learning about something that is undeniable. If you just do, if you could do an a fifth of what I've ever done, or 5%, I mean, not 20%, 5% of any looking into anything, and you would come to some conclusion that there's way too much that's rigged in this world to just say, oh, it's just this. Because I had him all night conceding, oh, it's the refs. Oh, yeah, the refs are toast. You know, they're terrible. It's just like, just the refs? So you're sitting here, you love a game that half the time the outcome can change on the basis of an arbitrary group that doesn't play the sport. They just wear a white and black uniform and decide to call the games how they want them called. You know that happens, but you like the sport that happens in. Is that not the weirdest thing ever? Imagine if you played the sport. Would you like that happening? Would you like if you just had to know it happens and you're just like, oh yeah, that happens, but gotta go give my all. It's like, what are we? Why not just eliminate that part of the game and just have a great game? But then we,
Exactly. Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's just like with the NASCAR races, like how we're pointing this out, how each week, um, just how manipulated these finishes are. That this week we had like the biggest like kind of gap there. Barry kind of this race wasn't like super close, but there's a lot of different like lead changes in the last like you know 70 laps and stuff like who looked like they could win, but um, it wasn't like a dramatic finish in the last lap or anything, but you look at almost every race has been that way, and like how they manipulate things, and how they can. I mean, it's so obvious how they do it, and how they can, pick certain cars to win, or screw somebody over, put them behind, give them a penalty. It's like this is something where if you watch any of these sports or anything, you can clearly see this is what's going on. These people are nothing but actors. I mean, uh, look at Aaron Rodgers just like changing his mind. He's like saying he's retiring, and then what? He's going to go to the Minnesota Vikings. He's going to do the Brett Favre where he went to the Jets, then the Vikings. It's like you're gonna.
absolutely.
And I said that, I called him. I'm like, watch him go to the. Since he's going to the Jets, watch him go to the Vikings and watch him just copy Favre and just do what Favre's doing. And that's there it is. I mean, it's happening right now. I mean, literally called it.
Yeah, and what similarly, it's just they're able to. I mean, just look at the what I was going to say right now with sports, how they're just jamming it in your face. All these a three-peat in NASCAR, that's rare enough. But then, we talked about Jimmy Johnson. It's just like, what are the odds? It's just like when we really get down to the actual odds, what sets somebody apart so much that would other teams not be just as incentivized to have the most perfect, well-performing car every single week? What are they missing? What are they missing that gives the Lowe's car the ability to just win week after week after week when it's hundreds of laps? It's absolutely improbable on paper. And then you have a three-peat this year just to start things off, just when you want the peak of excitement, you know, you're able to have a three-peat. It's just these things are unbelievably. I mean, you can start to factor in all of the ESPN notations and say, oh, skill, and oh, team, and oh, look at this guy's mechanic. This guy's a three-time, uh, you know, tire changer of the year for Michelin, and he was, man, back when he was at Goodyear, he could change a tire in a split time of .08, by anyway, you start to give all these, things like they like to do in sports. These, I remember when they first started introducing the plus minus in basketball, because it wasn't good enough how bad certain people were. They had to give them the plus minus, and then different certain stats to just say, oh, look, yeah, they suck, but man, when they're on the court, they're winning. It's like, so there's certain things they like to. There's always more. Anyway, uh, it's just so improbable. The Chiefs, it's just winning as much as they've been winning. The Patriots winning as much as they won. All of these things are insanely improbable on any amount of paper. It it boggles my mind that people can't see that there is something obviously being fooled with here. I don't care. It's like I don't think if you had a natural league of any kind that you would have as many. You would have almost no repeat, three-peat, two-peat, three-peats. I don't care, even if it was just region based. So you're only able to go from the pool that your region had. I just don't think the gaps are that wide in real life, but they make them this wide because they need stars, and they need to say, look at this gladiator. He's a bigger gladiator than these other gladiators. It's all this. I don't know. I've always just thought of it that way. I just can't understand how the gap in so-called skill is. I can't see it as real, and so it's just that's like, never mind all of the, not never mind it, but aside from all the provable rigging with the numbers, and you don't necessarily need the numbers to see that sports is rigged. It helps, but that's not something you need the numbers for. I'm not saying the numbers
Yeah.
aren't necessary. Their numbers are necessary for a whole lot of stuff, but not to see that sports are rigged. That's like, wake up and don't hit your head, and you should be able to see that.
Yeah, and it's the same thing in every sport. It doesn't matter, wrestling. It's always the same guys with the championship, same guys with the belt, and then the guys that should have had the belt early in their careers, should have held it the most, or were better, had the better skill, or more entertaining, or funner to watch, or just overall just a way better wrestler. Uh, they don't ever get it because it's politics. It's all politics. It's politics in our own life, and it's politics in the sports world. It's politics in NASCAR, wrestling, football. It's all politics, and that's just the fact. I mean, this is why you have the people you have, and um, the names they have, and the careers they have, and it's like I said, Aaron Rodgers, career here, he knew what he was going to do. I mean, he's signed the contract. This is what you're going to do. You're just going to be the ultimate actor. He's going to do what he's going to do, and then it's been the same thing with every sport. I mean, um, like you were saying, Jimmy Johnson winning the 5 in a row. I mean, yeah, I mean, you have to sit there and think about that. It's during a time where they just changed the standings not long before that. Was the Winston Cup, and if you go by that metric, then he would have won it only a few times. He wouldn't have won it as much, and he wouldn't have won 5 in a row. And they literally changed the standings so it would favor him, so he would win. And they literally kept changing it in his favor, so he would keep winning. I mean, that's literally. I mean, every championship he won was like in a different format. It's like a different situation, different cars. I mean, you have to think about that too. I mean, we're changing of cars, going from one car to the next, and you know, when the old car, the Gen 4, became the COT there, and then and that became the full time car, and then the sport changing, and changing of spoilers, wings, and you know, changing of just everything, tracks, and and then just to have that kind of consistency, that's how they're rigging it in favor to get these outcomes. It's just, this is what people are missing. It's the same thing like with other people that just are, um, like I said, out here they just want to blame this or blame that, or look at this or look at that, but it's like they don't really want to either look at the problem or accept the problem, or they don't want to really do anything. It's just like, someone that watches sports, it's like you said, I mean, and we talk all the time, you don't need to know the numbers, gematria. I mean, you can just obviously see it. I mean, like I said, I remember watching that, like the 2002 and the 2001 Daytona 500, and we just obviously see just how just rigged, faked, and scripted the race was, especially the end, just how they just set it and line it up through the whole race, really.
Yeah, and I'm not super privy on. I've said that in almost every episode now. I'm not super privy on NASCAR and everything, but I'm a quick study and I get the gist of it. Um, and to be honest, I don't think there's a lot of need to be that privy on any of these sports unless there was a legitimate way to do them, or something legitimate in this world about them, or like maybe there's different racing series of that are more legitimate than say a NASCAR, and more power to the people that are doing those I'm not dissing on motorsports. I'm just with NASCAR so far, a few races in, I see it just being a very narrative driven sport, just like all the other ones. Just like basically the day's end of a basketball day at the Sports Center for basketball. It's just highlights, and then somewhere along the way there's some sort of drama, there's some sort of something to highlight, or it's a broken record that it can either be arbitrary or um, maybe unlikely, but or it just is. And they there's always something to talk about. There's always something that fuels the next cycle of news. And I don't know. I just feel like obviously they're an entertainment sector, so you could sit there and say, "Oh yeah, well, duh, they have to come up with something to make it something entertaining or whatever." But I've always seen, not always, but since coming to, if you will, I've seen it as it's obviously manufactured, in my opinion. That it's more than just being they're really good at pinching all of the entertainment value out of anything mundane. I don't see that. I see them. I see mundane rarely happening. I see mundane. 99% of the game should be mundane. Should just be, oh, well, there's that game. But no, there's always something. There's always there's way too much going on to fuel the machine, if you will. And it just comes across as obvious. And we're only talking about sports. I mean, we talked briefly about, the politics, that, the open politics of, government, but that it really is, these systems, they're really all one and the same. And the entertainment sector is definitely intertwined with government, clearly. I mean, you have the president, being involved in the major, opening to the motorsport, major sport, and you have him at the closing of the NFL, of the football season. I mean, these things are intertwined clearly, and you just look at all the entertainers and they get involved with sports and things like that. They just love intertwining all of these things, and look at all the entertainers who are involved with politics, and it's all the same thing. And when you can see Taylor Swift and say, "Oh yeah, she's an entertainer," well, it's just like Nancy Pelosi. She's an entertainer. There's no way that lady has that much going on that she needed to be in our news cycle every week for years. It's just like, who cares? Just the same way as who cares what Taylor Swift is all about. These are all actors. They all have a role to play, and that's what they're doing. What I wanted to mention is, where's Ted Cruz? Where's the Florida governor? Where are all these faces that have been in our cycle for months and months and months? It's like I want you to pay attention to it. I'm not saying that they're gone, or I'm just saying these people's numbers are called. They give you this. The Ted Cruz that was given to us was never a Ted Cruz that would not want to be in the news cycle. You think he'd be, drumming up and taking interviews and just being in, saying whatever he could possibly say in order to get in the news cycle. Well, that's what we think about him, but his number's not called right now. So he's going to sit like a nice trained puppy and wait until it's his turn to blast off on something again. It's like you have the narrative is constantly at odds with what's going on in reality, in my opinion. Like these actors, it's clearly that it's clear they're acting because otherwise, why, where are they? Where are they right now? Why aren't they being as bombastic as they were for months and months on end? And that's just one example, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean, and like you bring up like the entertainment, how these, like I said, the world politics to the sports politics, that's all the same. But I mean, it's like we've been saying. I mean, they're making these things they're trying to make it more interesting. It's like I said, how there used to be, the Winston Cup format, and there's what it is now, and how there's even stages now. There's races within the race, so there's always something to race for. You're really racing all race to race within a race now,
Mm-hmm.
instead of, and just different rules, and the race can go into overtime and it can extend, and just there's so many different things now, uh, to make it more entertaining and to get you into it. And they do it with everything. They get it, with sports. And, it's what they're doing with politics. It's the way they got to push things, get people to, want to get a Tesla or go electric, or just this um, way to make things cool. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, look at the Cybertruck. I mean, it literally is the shape of a garbage can. I mean, it literally looks like garbage. I mean, and then obviously now you're gonna have people, the Trumpers. They're gonna be, uh, instead of their pickup trucks or whatever, they're gonna have their Tesla Cybertrucks, and their Teslas waving their Trump flags, thinking they're winning. Oh, look at me, I'm winning.
Yeah, I made a comment to my kiddo. I was just like, when we were talking about the Cybertrucks, because these people are going to go out and buy them initially, and because here's the reality. It's like maybe some people could niche see them as like a cool car. It's I can sort of understand the niche idea about it, but 5 years from now, you're going to have a Tesla Cybertruck, and it's just okay. Was it really all worth it? Is it really better than your Tacoma? Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Is it really better than any of the, I'll even go domestic. Is it really better than your Silverado? Your Silverado?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was yesterday I saw a Tesla. It was either I think it was either a Tesla or a Cybertruck, but it had a Musk sticker on it with the circle with the slash, like saying they were, against Musk or dissing Musk, but
Hmm.
yet they're still driving the Tesla. So
What a way to prove that.
right,
Down with Tyson eating chicken nuggets. It's just like, what?
yeah. Oh, sorry, I was
What?
talking about Mike Tyson. Sorry, wrong Tyson.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like Musk. It's like, oh, so it's different Musk. It's like, oh, sorry, it's only one Musk I know. So
No, it's no the perfume, the cologne. Down with it. Get it out of here. I'm sick of smelling it. Well, that rant came out of nowhere, but not really out of nowhere. It's really always there. It's kind of like the Hulk's anger. It's like this could come out at any point. That's why I don't have very many friends. It's because who knows what it would take before I'm just like in full tell it like it is mode, in my opinion, at least. Tell it like it is how I see it. Um, And I'm sure I'm sure that there's a law to this. I don't think October 22nd is arbitrary too. That date seems familiar. This is one thing I need to do better with is indexing like important dates. I always, I'm starting to remember some of the key ones that have to do with the Jesuit order or their leaders or the Pope and things like that. But I could really do better to remember a lot of these key dates but anyway, as far as this race, I didn't see a whole lot. I think that there are narratives at play, like getting Ford off the schneid, and uh, I think there is a statement being made there with 11 straight domestic uh, cars winning, or not winning, but in a row. But other than that, I do see that he came up in Tennessee, which is interesting because once again, we're having Tennessee. I think they got caught up in this storm. Thought I saw Nashville. And we didn't even really talk about this much. I highlighted it a little bit while we were talking, but we can definitely talk about this real quick.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, how because the next race too is at Homestead. Um, and like you said, this was the first win for Ford. Now this season's all the manufacturers have won now, so you have everybody's won. So it's interesting. Next week because I think Florida too was involved, and well, obviously Florida's not far from Cuba, where the power went out. There's
Mm-hmm.
the power grid situation there. We'll talk about too, and then the weather this weekend as well over the Ides of March. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with these NASCAR races if they're kind of setting it up and rigging it with the weather too, because I think Florida was involved in some twisters or some weather too. So and that's going to be the next race, and obviously this one was in Vegas, so we'll have to see if they kind of pay tribute some way or something. It seems like they like to do that with and obviously the Daytona 500 was just in Florida too, so we just had that as well. So back to Florida again.
That's even held in Daytona as well. Daytona Beach.
Yeah, it used to be the last race of the season too. It used to be called the Ford 400 ever at Homestead. So
I just it's a bit of a reach, but I'm kind of wary of the name Ivy. If anybody knows, like Beyonce's daughter, she's named Blue Ivy, and I just remember like the first time I heard there was like a mainstream article about Blue Ivy. At the same time, they were putting out a drip for uh, COVID, like for those hospitalized with severe COVID. They had a an IV drip, and it was blue. So it was interesting to me that you had a blue IV, and her name is Blue Ivy. But also IV in Roman numerals is 4, and that's associated with death. And this one you have Governor K. Ivy of Alabama.
it's like
Uh,
poison ivy.
Wraps you up and chokes you out. I wanted to point out too that 12 dead in Missouri. Of course, Kansas City just came off the Super Bowl. And even 40 people dead. So there's another 4.
Yeah, they always got to have the 4 in there for death. It's always there.
The sun has risen in Alabama. Scary. Yeah, here we go. Tampa, Florida. Tornado warnings. I don't know what came of this. This is all past news, so they should have some sort of update. Yes. I mean, these are pretty intense. What I'm reading is like lots of tornadoes all at once.
Yeah, it's like last year, more tornadoes last year than the other year, and Twister came out. So
Yeah, Twisters just came out. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be more and more Twisters every single year. I mean, just nothing to be happy. It's another way to do it.
These terrible storms.
The big scary storm.
Diaz, Arkansas. Wow. Okay. Dang, 190-mile-per-hour winds.
Booking.
Huh. That's a bit rough. Gonna be honest.
Might should have been at Las Vegas Day. You could have cut the 190-mile-an-hour winds.
It's a handsome Ashley. Reminded how popular of a boy named Ashley used to be. My sister's name. She was like.
I know Stacy can be a guy's name too, like the NASCAR driver Stacy Compton.
Stacy. Come here, Stacy. Oh man, that's just weird. I prefer Stacy's stay female. I'll do, and if I'm made president, I'll make sure that no Stacy's can be boys. Crowd roars.
With the exception of Stacy Compton.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have Stacy Compton.
I got money on him this week.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see if these are, I mean, the way I'm reading this is that these are current. This was updated an hour ago, 2 hours ago. So I would assume that these things are not done, or these are still running concurrent in the East Coast, on the East Coast. Oh, this New York Times isn't ever gonna let me. More flooding.
Yeah, I think wasn't Michigan like hit the hardest or whatever. It was like Michigan, like the South or whatever.
Yeah, they're saying Missouri, Alabama, Arkansas. Got 34 dead is the 34-year-old with the 34 name wins the race. They've updated that to 40, but it's kind of hard to track where they're saying what's the real time. Huh, there you go. Get Mahomes on your.
Mahomes pumped up.
Yeah, Mahomes gone. Oh well, at least I got Mahomes. My home's gone, but I got Mahomes.
Well, that's my homie.
The floor was upside down. Or maybe you were upside down. Maybe you were just not upside down. Uh, I love, there we go. See some pictures of the paper houses that were destroyed. Maybe not that one, but they do love showing these seem like normal houses, but that's just a tree falling. They do like to show the trailer parky type houses getting cut through. Like
Oh yeah.
imagine, I mean, what is keeping you into these towns that are known for tornadoes and you live in a mobile home? What is keeping you there? What is worth the risk in that town? Is it just like the taxes are really good or something? I don't. I'm baffled about how every year it's the same pictures you get to see all these paper houses that are just completely strewn about by a tornado. And I'm sure we'll get a story coming out about the one house that survived in one of these towns
Oh yeah.
and how they did it.
The guy in his cardboard box survived the whole thing.
I was just watching the NASCAR race. I didn't even know. I'll tell you what. When Bell spun out there with Blaney, it's just like I thought I heard something, but it was really too exciting to take my eyes off of.
Yeah, my cardboard box. I couldn't even hear the wind outside, bro.
I mean, yeah, speaking of though, it's like homeless people were toast,
Oh yeah.
absolutely toast with storms like this, and it really doesn't take storms like this. It's really it's interesting to think of, to say the least, of just the actual toll it takes on humans that are out on the street.
Yeah, this is something where too. It's there's so many places that, for the most part, get tornadoes and weather like this. It's like, even like
Tornado Alley.
yeah, the southern part of like even Wisconsin. There's like kind of considered the like the southwestern part of Wisconsin. A lot of it's like kind of tornado alley too. It's even places like that get them. So you kind of have, um, and then you have, I mean, you have the whole, I mean, pretty much everywhere but out west. But even like, I know Washington only gets like four or less a year. Um, but pretty much, like all the states out west, like Wyoming might get some, or Montana or something. But um, you really don't get it till you get to like, the West Coast doesn't really get it, but you might get like a couple here or there, some smaller ones. You start to get them when you get to like the western part, but they're still kind of, and then all of a sudden you get into, east of Colorado, or, the eastern part of Colorado, and that's where you really run into the twisters and stuff. And there's so many places that, you know, we've seen too that don't really get tornadoes, like New York or something, and they're going to get them too. So uh, this is something where it attacks everywhere. It attacks you could be homeless and be involved, or you could have a whole lot of stuff, a nice house and everything, and it could all be destroyed too. So um, and of course too, it's really what they want. The insurance doesn't want to pay or doesn't want to cover. You lose your house, you lose your car, you lose everything. I mean, how many times these people, like you said, want to just keep rebuilding and restarting? It's like people in Florida and Texas that want to keep getting hit with these hurricanes. It's like, how many times can you possibly deal with this? It's, it affects the whole state. It runs right through the whole state. So it's just another way to weed people out.
It's a pretty and granted it's tearing up some of the more sturdy buildings too, but I'm not sitting here saying people need like fancy crazy houses either. I don't think these things are quote unquote natural that are happening, but my point behind it is just kind of like the imagery that they love to show you are these paper houses and these kind of like packed together town, like uh, neighborhood type towns. Of course, we get a chicken nugget ad
Yeah.
anyway. um, and they just love to show you these pictures of it every single time. They'll give you these middle states, Tennessee's and the Oklahoma's getting, Kansas is getting their tornadoes, and just the trailer parks torn up. Makes you wonder why they have to do that or why they do it, but there's something to it for sure. I'm trying to get a read on whether or not this is. So yeah, I mean, from what I'm reading, like this is like it's moved out of the the central eastern um, part of the states, and it's mostly on the eastern seaboard, like this is showing. And yeah, you're right. Even yeah, up towards New York City, Buffalo, at risk.
Yeah, so you basically have the whole eastern side of the country, so it's a lot of land. It's a lot of people being affected.
Of course. Oh, we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, it'll be
Hopefully
interesting
not.
to see. Like I said, if we do get more twisters this year than last year. Last year, the most obviously twister came out, but like as we expected, especially with the whole Trump regime, that we can expect the weather warfare to be at an all-time high and really take over, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the Kennedy in there, people
Yeah.
forget about JFK's role in or perceived role in weather modification, and then of course his predecessor, yeah, his successor, uh, definitely had a lot to do with at least being at the forefront. Sorry, I moved away from my mic. At the forefront of pushing weather modification. Of course, people I think know about his speech at I think it was like Texas University. Um, oh, why did right when I need to think of something, I can't think of it. What was his name? JFK's vice president who got sworn in after he died, even though it wasn't like official.
Is that Nixon or
No, was it Truman? Ah, man, I probably just looked stupid. Oh, Lyndon Johnson. Duh, man. Yeah, Lyndon Johnson. He gave the whole "He who controls the weather controls the world" speech. Man, I just had a brain fart on this fool. I could like see his face, but I couldn't think of his name.
Johnson? Go figure, another Johnson, Jimmy Johnson.
Big old swinging Johnson. But along the same lines of the power outages in America, you have this whole Cuba fiasco where they went without power for 2 days, and it seems like their power just came on earlier today. Um, yeah, but yeah, their whole grid went down. Um, it's let's see, 10 million people, so that's a large chunk of people. Not to say that it's still. I mean, these things are happening in tandem with what happened in America too. So, you know, trying to take a step back and see what exactly is. It's hard to you don't want to be super conspiratorial necessarily, or not conspiratorial so much, but um, paranoid. But at the same time, just knowing all these things are connected and they do have side effects that tend to benefit certain groups a lot more than there's always a victim group and a beneficiary, and the order out of chaos when you know what it's all about, you see it all the time. And we were speaking briefly about this. You mentioned the Cuban thing, and reading that the severe storms in the central eastern side of the country, they were mentioning, millions, tens of millions of people out of power, and then you have 10 million people in Cuba out of power. But it's all tied to this whole out of power, grid going down, electricity lost. Yeah, they'll say it's a big giant storm. They didn't say that for Cuba, but I'm saying for America. So people will say, "Oh, well, yeah, duh, we had tornadoes and this and that." It's just like we had tornadoes at the very okay. Even if you give up that idea that tornadoes could just take out your grid at any time, I think that it could easily serve as like a wake up moment that at any time the grid could go down, and you could sit there and say, "Oh, it's a natural reason or not," but there's no promise it ever goes back up. There's no promise. And I can only assume living in Cuba with their government, who, as far as I can tell from my knowledge of Cuba, has been selling out their people, you know, quite blatantly for years and years and years and years and years, decades. I can only imagine when that power went out, they must have, I'm sure there was a large amount of Cubans that were just like, all right, here it is. Here we go. Because, you know, I think there's only, so much. I would say you don't need to be a conspiracy theorist or like anything like that to know corruption when you see it, and understand that you don't have a lot of say in where you live and what goes on in your immediate area, unless you are lucky to have, you know, your own spaces and your own, which what that what that even is lost on me in 2025. I don't know if it's even possible to have your own anything, but more of a sense of your own thing and not reliant on government systems. But you see, they pull the plug, and 10 million people just are left wondering if it's ever going to come back on. I can only imagine, living in Cuba as compared to America, where generally things come back on within a day or so, or less than a day, on average. I would assume much less than a day, hours. These people had to wait 2 whole days, and your mind would wander. It's like, what if our grid goes down? What's wrong with our grid? Is it able to even come back on? What would make it go down to begin with? And people aren't engineers. People aren't electrical engineers en masse anywhere. So even in America, our grid goes down. Not to say even in America as if it's better either. Sorry for the terminology and how it comes across. It's not how I think at all. But electrical engineers even more than likely don't have a sense of the scale of what our grid is on. They might understand how like grids work, but they don't work on our grid. So anyway, I'm getting into a diatribe here, but basically what I'm trying to say is I can only imagine in Cuba they probably wouldn't know that their power was ever going to come back on once they realized that almost their whole country was out of it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen too, but where the power grid is located in Cuba, it wherever it is or whatever it is or what's called, it translates to swine.
Mm.
So it's part of the, just obviously it's just a big mockery, but it's just part of the slap in the face. But yeah, the predictive programming is just so heavy. I mean, for this um, power grid, thing going down, it just seems like, um, yeah, nobody. It's amazing how, like I said, how just nobody seems to like talk about it or want to accept it, even though they've told you they're going to do it how many times. I mean, with all these stories, I mean, you have tornadoes, wind, hail, flooding. You have this power outage, um, and overall, like I've said too. I mean, Elon Musk has already came out and said, in 20 years, there's going to be a population collapse, and the population's going to implode. So you just put all this together. You put two and two together. It's just like, yeah, it's just like right now the way it's sitting, it's just like that. Yeah, they got this because it just seems like nobody really wants to look at the problem. I mean, everybody just wants to, like I said, just not look at how multifaceted everything is and really point the finger at the right people. It's just or want to really do anything about the situation. It's they have it so ingrained. I mean, it's um, 0 day coming out on Kurt's birthday 220. I mean, how much more do you need than that? I mean, really at this point.
Yeah, and you being as close to Seattle as you are, and even me moving closer to Seattle than I had been, or at least northern Washington. At least anyway, uh, it is the programming's been there for these big cities, um, Seattle. You've had the what you're going to do when the grid goes down with Arizona on the cover, and I've always found it interesting that Arizona has the same it's Valentine's birthday as Oregon does, and I was still living in Oregon when we went through that last power outage. Luckily, it affected me initially, but we got power back on like instantly, and it was really weird because they did a really good job of like hushing it because I had no idea that literally neighborhoods less than a few miles away had not had power for weeks. I had just gone about my days as normal once the power came back on. Like I was out of power for a very little amount of time. And I thought that it was, I would assume that it was mostly done. But no, there's places in Portland that didn't get power back turned back on for like weeks that were not that far away from me. So also makes you wonder about like how these systems even work to begin with and like what are they running on? Is it I have my own off the wall, you know, I guess you could say theories about energy and its potential and what we're actually doing with it and how stone age we're using the technology that's available to us when we could be free energy, free all this all these different types of things. And you mentioned Musk a lot too, and what I think I find interesting there is something that people should be aware of, just being, rah, rah, Trump, Musk, rah, rah. Well, you have this vehicle manufacturer who is looking to grid our infrastructure for his fleets that he is rolling out, which are going to get all these contracts. I'm sure he's going to get all the Amazon contracts. I'm sure between him, Tesla and Boeing, we're going to see an all new way of shipping industry in throughout America. A lot of these electric vehicles. And if you doubt me, look into your city's contracts and how much money they federal money they've accepted to install electric charging stations, and and also look into the court cases and laws that they are hearkening back to in order to push these things forward. Why I'm saying that is because a lot of these damn bugs, I swear, a lot of these uh, movements for these electric charging stations, they supersede like ownership at a local level. Just think about when they want to put in a highway somewhere. You know, they can pressure you in a million different ways. Well, in these instances, I believe they have the backing of, you know, court cases that have already been um, gone to trial and, you know, won, so quote unquote, for the state in order to move ahead with certain projects that don't require your approval if you're in the way of them. So a lot of states have already taken up these contracts. It's one of the biggest moving things. If you guys remember, if it's possible to remember what happened in Asheville, a lot of that has to do with like quartz and maybe not cobalt. It was quartz and aluminum silicates or quartzite silicates, something like that. But it was a crucial element in potential circuitry for the electric charging stations. The mine there in Asheville, when it, you know, the hurricane hit there and they had that major flood that tore, you know, just tore down half the town. But the first, you know, some of the first places to rebuild were the mine and other governmental infrastructures, and BlackRock is in there to swoop up. Anyway, uh, yeah, these things are moving in, and it's not for your Tesla. These charger stations are not just keeping in mind that your Tesla needs to be charged. What they're going for is, think about your roads right now. It's like this fine balance. It's like the future that they are pushing, if it was done by people that cared about you and we were all involved, first of all, never mind the fact that they care about you. Let's just say that we were all involved with it. We all had a stake in it and we all had a responsibility towards it. Then that could be a thriving system. But that's not what this is. This is a group, this is hundreds of thousands and millions of people that just expect something to happen from people that don't owe you a damn thing. They steal your money daily. They've never claimed to be, I mean, they claim to be these altruistic people, but they've never shown to be these altruistic people, yet we rely on them to fix my road. I pay taxes. I pay taxes, fix my road. This is my road. These are my roads. I paid my taxes. That's the sentiment of how large a percentage of Americans. But in reality, what they're going to do is they're going to come through and fix your roads. But the standard of vehicle that can drive on those roads is going to change. And if your vehicle is not up to that standard, your vehicle cannot be on those roads that you claim are yours. And you know, I think that's very much so moving towards this grid system where you have basically self-driving. Even if you're in the car itself, you are self-driving. You can only do certain maneuvers. You know, there's only so much you can do, and it's like automated driving, if that makes sense. You know, think about these future movies that have like Minority Report and stuff, where like the cars are on like, anyway, they're like flying cars, but they're like, you can only go. It's like, imagine having a flying car, but you can only drive in a straight line. It's like, oh wow, so cool. But yeah, it's, so people keep that in mind, that with these sweeping changes to the standard of vehicle, that's going to the infrastructure that goes along with it. It's going to uphold the standard of vehicle, and so we might just say, oh yeah, give us new roads and fix our roads so that, you know, have you heard about like these Japanese and Chinese roads that have like lights in them and stuff?
Yeah, they got some crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, when you get those types of things, they're not just going to say, oh, here's a new toy, enjoy. They don't do that. They've been giving us the shittiest asphalt. First of all, asphalt shitty. Asphalt is the bottom of the barrel of these types of, it's like it's only there to cover up a scab. That's all it's ever done, is just cover up, you know, there's been a lot of major like roads uh, collapsing and stuff like that. That's another, we can talk about some other time. But anyway, asphalt is trash, and these roads should have been fixed with proper cement and proper procedures a long time ago. But once again, I'm not saying this as in like I expect my government to do it. That attitude is it's such a pointless attitude. And it's only pointless when you realize that this world is rigged. This world is not here for, you know, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is not waking up every morning and saying, how can I benefit the American people? I'm going to go down there and I'm really going to keep these checks and balances, and I'm going to do whatever I can to uphold the beautiful Constitution for these beautiful people. He doesn't give a shit about you. He's going out there. All these politicians, they go out there and they do what they can to pad their own pockets, which I almost look at it like salary. I don't think any of these people are actually stand to make any more money than they really would have already. It's just the benefits aren't money. It's a power game, because money, they understand what money is. You've had a lot of talk of like them auditing Fort Knox again, and they like to bring this up all the time. It's just like, man, who gives a shit? You could show me a pile of gold, and I still won't buy it that this was ever based in gold. And honestly, when we evolve from when you evolve from like the dwarven little goblin thinking of, ooh, shiny is what the world's about. The world should be about the shiny yellow stuff. The shiny yellow stuff is what we should do everything for. It's just like, what are we talking about? It's just so stupid of an idea anyway, that gold is such a standard. It's such a beautiful thing that we just need to make it worth so much. All the people dying over diamonds and rubies and all these things. I'm just going off. I'm sorry.
No, you're
I could just go
100%
for
right. I
days.
mean, yeah, it's just all of it. I mean, yeah, it's just like, oh, marry me, put that big diamond on my finger. It's all this, the things we do for all this stuff. But yeah, it's where it is too. Like you're saying, I mean, it's how now you have to have, um, with the way things are. Yeah, you have to have different, like for I mean, like what Musk is doing, with coming out saying, yeah, the population's like, yeah, it's like, what are you doing? What are you pushing? You're pushing the driverless car, right? And all these people that think that, and even the situation I'm in, where I'm, juggling jobs and careers and doing, a lot of different things right now, and in a, changing, you know, period of my life this year as well, in the months to come and the weeks to come. And I understand that things are changing by the day, and things are, being weeded out. There's not always going to be delivery cars and delivery jobs. I mean, there wasn't for how many years, and then it just popped up, but it's all going away. I mean, it was here for a short time. I mean, it was here for uh, a very small time. You could really only, try and really benefit from it for a very short amount of years. And it's the same thing with truck driving and truckers too. I mean, you really think it's just going to be the smaller end? No, it's going to be everybody. I mean, your truck, people think they're going to get a CDL and drive truck for 10, 20 years from now. No, you're not. I mean, you're going to be weeded out. There's going to be Tesla semis. There's going to be driverless trucks. There's going to be all this stuff. I mean, the days of job security and the days of thinking you're safe are over. And people thinking, I mean, what are you going to do when they have the 24/7 control over it, and you have the video camera and the AI watching you at all times? I mean, that's where it's going. I mean, you're not even going to be able to, even if you had a Tesla, it wouldn't even start, because the AI didn't like the way you woke up this morning. You woke up on the wrong side of bed, so AI is saying, no, you can't drive your Tesla to work, so you're going to be late. So if you even have a job by that point, that's really where it's going. It's like I keep saying, we're heading for the bubble world, and um, it's exactly where it's going. So I got them all these, the retard mockeries they do, blasting off in a, stupid dick rocket, bunch of dickheads going to outer space, a bunch of astronauts. Now you got these. Now you're gonna have Trump. Won't be in the armored limo no more. He's gonna be in the Tesla, just with letting it drive himself. So he can eat his McDonald's probably. Eat his eat his big order of fries, his large fries, and his Big Mac. Yeah, he's got those chicken nuggets.
Yeah, you probably got RFK in there, telling him, hey,
Yeah, he'll be
I'll,
sucking him off while he's eating his McDonald's.
hoping to get some of the sauce to trickle on it, just for
Yeah,
that added flavor. Oh, some barbecue, please.
Elon will be in the back filming.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. Just uh, RFK, if you could, you look at the camera a little bit, please. Just hold on, it's getting huge.
I'm
I
getting
mean,
huge. I'm getting bigger. This is the best I've ever had.
it's
This is so great. This is
the
amazing.
best you had, quite honestly. I don't know what to do with RFK right now. I think I need to practice my RFK fellatio voice. That might be rough. Or maybe it's just a regular voice. Maybe that's what it sounds like when a regular voice is giving fellatio, is RFK's voice. I did a pretty good one the other day for my mom, and she was pissed off. They say the measles. Anyway, I'll have to work on it. But yeah, I mean, just right here, I think one of the biggest ones right now is Volvo because they already own such a huge stake in semi truck uh, development and creation or whatever. But these are all these main uh, companies and things that have gotten on board with the driverless semi trucks. And I think I've mentioned this before, but my lady's uh, mom, my mother-in-law, basically, she works for a trucking company, and so she sees how these books are cooked, and she's privy to a lot of. She's talked to me about a lot of certain, like accidents and stuff that have happened, and lawsuits and payouts of multi-million dollar payouts that have been happening. Just one company which might go under because of it. Meanwhile, their CEO and their higher ups are giving their grandchildren $500,000 uh, trust funds every year. And I had this idea that, I mean, someone's probably thinking, I mean, duh, but to me, it just seems like a money moving scheme. It's like rather than have your money sitting in an offshore account, or, who wants to hear about the CEO that had, millions of dollars in a Swedish bank account, when that's one thing. But the point I'm trying to make is this particular company, they've had issues paying out people's bonuses and even their checks altogether, or their, injury claims or anything like that. They've not denied, but they've had trouble paying that out. When if you had an extra 500,000 lying around, I think that would have been a lot easier. And that's just the CEO. And that's just one child. I think it's like per grandchild. It's not just one grandchild. So, and not to mention his fat bonus he gets every year. Like she does the books for this company. She sees these numbers that are going out, but she also sees the claims that are being made against them, and it's just kind of like a sinking ship that they are just like letting the wheels fall off. They're just rolling it so the wheels fall off. And what I've seen about it makes me wonder if that's just not a more legal way of moving money. Because like think about it, you have a trust fund kid, right? And you have the kind grandpa or whatever that paid for it. Well, he just, comes up to you and he's just like, hey, 25% of these millions are yours. but these other 75% are mine. But this is enough to pay for your school. You're going to have a nice car. You're going to have all the money you ever need, and you already live in a mansion. But it's I do there's some I think there's something to it that it's like an incentivized, and I also think that's why it's such a family affair. The upper echelon of society is because who's going to be like, no, I don't want 25% of all these millions. I want it all. I'm gonna tell on you. It's like, no, that doesn't happen. They gladly take all the money and they go be brats in college, and then they become the brats of the industries up and coming, and they get seats at the table just by their name. And they're not turning these things down. So I think it's some way of moving money, you know, without making them taxable, because that I know for sure is that trust funds are not taxable. So I think that's like a huge thing that I'm kind of becoming privy to, is that these people um, technically give the money away, but I think it stays obviously in the family, and to an extent, I think it stays with the gifter, uh, just behind closed doors.
Yeah, and I mean you're already seeing a lot of this transition playing out now. I mean, you look at the new like Amazon delivery vehicles too. I mean, they're electric and uh,
Oh yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah. I mean, I know like there's Amazon Flex too. It's another delivery job. It's kind of like Uber and stuff, but yeah, I mean, you have Amazon Flex, and I don't, it's something where too. I mean, it's going to be, if you're doing Amazon Flex, you're gonna have to have an electric vehicle, or you're gonna have to have, um, or it's just going to be, Amazon Flex might go away too, and that just might just become part of this driverless delivery service. But yeah, I mean, and this is where, like I said, the trucking industry is going. And this is going to happen the next 5 years too, because you have the transition right now. I mean, the population is changing. You're having we're on the cutoff point. People are going to start dying off because there's not enough people. That, I mean, there are people that are having kids, but um, you also have to look at the people coming into the world. I mean, it's not a good look at all right now. People that are coming up and coming into the world, and um, that they're going to really be able to do anything. You're going to have all these lemmings and all these people that are just because of the agenda and what it's caused, and all these people that like I said, that had kids, that shouldn't have had kids, or that didn't have a father figure or whatever, or just kids that are just overweight or obese, or you don't have any proper education. uh you're going to have a massive failure society of people that are left, and they have all the people that won't be able to afford kids or won't have kids or whatever. So yeah, um you're going to have a population collapse in the next 20 years, and you're also going to have, if it's not less than 20 years, um it could be way less than that. And you're also going to have, like I said, this push where the jobs and the transportation is going to be taken over. I mean, people thinking they're going to have a long, lustrous career in trucking, and they're going to, be their own trucker and make a bunch of money, 10, 20 years from now and stuff. I mean, it's, yeah, they have ways to, and even if you are, I mean, doing trucking and stuff, it's not, they are having ways where people, it's going to be, there might even be a system too, where it's just, you just sit on the sideline and, just get your digital money, whatever it's going to be, just hand it to you, and then the truck's just going to go out there and do the work itself, and they're going to have the AI do everything. I mean, that's just where it's going. I mean, people think that um, this stuff is crazy, or it can't happen. No, it's already happening. It's happening right now, and it's exploding right now. It's good. By the end of the year, I mean, this stuff's going to be taken off. I mean, people think it's crazy. They want to dismiss it, but no. I mean, you already see it, and Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people are just going to be left behind. Um, Most people are going to be left behind, I believe, um, and this administration in the next 5 years because they're not going to be able to keep with the change. And I mean, who knows? I mean, we might be too. I mean, we don't, like I said, we don't know how much time we have left in the system. I mean, you're going to have AI surveilling you 100% of the time. Is how you're going to be able to hang in society. So, I mean, I don't see me and you being on that, being how we are. I mean, we'd be weeded out. We wouldn't be able to exist. So, yeah, I mean, this is where we are. I mean, we're already here. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we haven't passed the threshold for certain keywords on the internet already and are kind of like flagged just for that. But
Yeah,
I also, along these things, it's just like how long, how many generations before the standard food is the gloop that you get to see in these sci-fi movies. It, it seems ridiculous. Everything seems ridiculous. I never thought that, you were talking about striking while the iron was hot with the with the delivery, not just food, but that, came about with COVID and all that stuff. It really took off. Uber Eats, Grubhub, all these things. When that first started happening, I was, what? Who would want that crap? Boom. It's just, and then everybody, before you know it, one in every 10 cars has a Uber sticker or Uber Eats sticker on their thing, and they're a driver for them. I'm just like, man, that worked. Teslas. It's just like, who the hell would want these ugly things? Who the hell would like pay this exorbitant price for something so unstable? Okay, now it's like one in every four cars. Sometimes I feel like I'm seeing Teslas, like one in every, way too often for what the market really should be. And I'm still sticking with what I've always said is there's definitely been some sort of incentivization towards large groups, communities of people in order to get these things moved out there. And because it's word of mouth, it's not even word of mouth, it's like word of seeing. These people see that you see a large amount of these Teslas start taking over the road. It's like Grand Theft Auto. People will see them and they'll be like, oh, well, I guess they are trending on the up. Maybe I will look at one. A real person is what I'm talking about, and they'll go spend all their real money on a retail one. Meanwhile, they didn't know that, these are employees driving all the other ones. These are people that have ties to the company or whatever. I mean, how many tens of thousands of people work for Tesla Incorporated? And then all their family members, they all get incentivized to drive these new cars, which I'm sure are nice. I have never been in one. I've never driven one. I'm sure they drive nice. I'm sure they have high standards for certain things to make them nice. But it's just, what I mentioned earlier, nice is not it's not everything, and honestly, it's not what we need right now. But and your nice car ain't gonna work like shit when the grid goes down. It might be nice to
right.
sit in, and until you freeze to death. But other than that, it's mainly just an eyesore for me. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, what I was talking about, all these things that you think maybe are so far fetched, it's just there's a reason we see all these things in these sci-fi movies. They're happening in real time, right in front of your eyes. And some of these things you sit there and think, oh, it would take years, it would take decades for this stuff to take hold. It really doesn't. It's scary how quickly it takes hold, and you don't see the picket lines. And it's like, should I be starting the picket lines? Yeah, we probably all should be starting the picket lines. I'm not sitting here saying that it's my job to join a picket line that already exists. It's my job to start a picket line too. But yeah, how long before gloop and slop is the standard food? And I'm not even trying to say like forced on us. Like I think we would accept it. I think we would actually accept it if they painted it the right way. Like we're being environmentally conscious or something like that, or in some sort of light like that where it's not to mention convenience, because as long as, I mean, they look at Gogurt. Gogurt's been on that train. They were like, let's get ahead of all this. Let's just give them tubes of food and let's see if it hits. Oh, they love it. Oh, okay. Well, shit. I guess then they're just tube eaters.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is too, it's like I was saying, I mean, for another 19-year cycle, I mean, for 2039, I mean, to think we have another 14 years, which I personally don't think we have another 14 years. There might be an event in 2039, but uh, I definitely believe it's going to be a lot sooner before that. And by the time 2039 rolls around, by the time next 20 years rolls around, this world ain't going to be anything like it is right now. It's going to be completely distorted and taken over because um, and who knows when the event is going to be and what it exactly will be and what exactly it's going to look like. But I believe it'll be within the next probably 5 years or 10 years or whatever, however they want to do it. But um, yeah, I mean, it just seems like that's pretty much what we're living for. We're living for the next event, and that event's going to be the event, and we already see it um, in the making. I mean, with all the mockery, you have 0 day, and you have all these, cyber attacks and grids going down. Um, but you also like right now, it's kind of a weird time because it's like we can't really it's hard to get really any traction with. I mean, obviously, we talk about the numerology, the dates, the numbers, the gematria and stuff, but at this point, I mean, we are in such a deficit on all fronts. I mean, um, like I said, just like listening and watching, Zach's videos this week and stuff, and listening to his rant video, and then listening to his other video too, and just hearing what him and other people have to say, and just like all the people and where everybody's at right now for the most part. I mean, it'll be amazing um, if we're even still able to function, sooner or later, if we're still here, like just normal anymore. Just because how just bad we really have it. I mean, like I said, I mean the youth coming up right now, just they just have nothing going for 'em. I mean, and the people coming in the world now are just they're so screwed. And then you have just so many people that um, are around my age, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older, maybe like your age or so that aren't doing good or just in a bad spot. I mean, and then you just have this total fallout of how like where people should be. Like this is what gets me. It's just like how does it what's stopping everybody from just literally looking at something and just pointing at the same thing and just saying the same thing. I mean, the fact we haven't had any common ground and the fact um, there's just nowhere near enough people. We're losing people. It's we're at the end of days of reaching people in person and through the internet, and um, you just see who's able to make all the money and profit, and that's just what the internet really is. I mean, it's just I mean, at this point, I mean, I just don't really know what you do. I mean, it's um like I said, I know there was like that one caller on like Zach's show this week saying like, oh, we should or we should just try and make our own like secret society or something. But it's just like we and I've too, like I've tried to I've traveled around, tried to build community and try and have people uh work together, come together, and you know be a unit, be a group. And it's just like nobody wants to do that. I mean, we don't have um the numbers at all. I mean, we just like I said, there's no younger women in this community. There's no it's mainly just older women. There's not many women in it in general. There's not enough people to really try and sell and get people interested in what we are showing, and it's just amazing how there's not enough people that can look at something and really see and want to do something about what something really is. Like people are angry, but they're just going to blame and only look at parts of it and just ignore everything. So it's like, and these are the same people that are, they're probably just sitting making a bunch of money right now. Probably going to own a Tesla pretty soon. They're probably going to be, you know, promoting Musk, and if they don't already promote him, promoting Trump and stuff, and promoting this garbage and these puppets and these nasty, evil, just retards that just it's so frustrating just how people like us just feel like it just seems like we have no voice to be heard at this point. Like, we've been, how many years have we been saying these things, and it's like, to be in 2025 and to be where we are is just it's just beyond frustrating. It's just so annoying, and it's just so embarrassing that we have to just have to deal with this. It's like, and people can say, well, it's like I said too, like in the last episode, it's like you have to really look at it like, what is negativity? I mean, you have to like think about things. I mean, to sit here and say that you're not going to be weeded out of your position. I mean, uh, and it's just like all the things that have happened to me. I have to sit and worry and think about what their next scheme against me is going to be, because there's going to be something coming this year. But they got something. They hit me constantly with something. So it's like, okay, what are they going to do next? What's it going to be this year? How many times are they going to hit me? Like the fact that we even have to like worry about these things and think about these things, like that's where people's minds should be. It's just like, and then you have all these people too. It's like I said, they just want to, you know, oh well, wait another like 10, 20 years, and there's some people right now, they're like, oh, see, the economy's turning around, the economy's getting better. It's like, I mean, where what are you looking at? I mean, if you it's just like, oh well, things will be better, they're going to get better. It's like, yeah, the only way it's going to get better for you is if you just sell it to the system. It's obvious what this is. It's um like I was just showing you. I mean, how these electric vehicles, the Amazon vans now are electric and stuff. I mean, it's going to be soon. There's going to be mandates, going to be mandatory. You already see how these things pop up and how quick it is. I mean, it's just like, things happen so fast. People don't realize how fast things happen, and just, I mean, look how fast the time is moving. It's almost April already. Like, before you know it, it's going to be summer, and you know we're going to be in a whole new fad already by then.
I mean, you make great points. I mean, it's strange talking to my kiddo too, because I talk about certain things, pre cell phones and CDs and all sorts of different things, but you know, kind of to my point earlier about how things are like ramping up and speeding up, like kind of making it seem like the agenda is being amplified, and the parabola effect, where it's steady, 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 and just like exponential growth. Well, that's the way I see it. Is like these things are ramping up exponentially because we're talking about Amazon in the grand scheme of like electric cars taking over everything. Electric cars is the new thing. Amazon itself, where did that come from? I lived all my life up to a certain point with no thinking that I could just order something online and have it show up. It was always like a third party site with other real people involved, eBay. It's like, yeah, there was retail stores that did it, but you never know with those kinds of things. Like, even then it was just through the mail. It wasn't through their own delivery site. It's like this thing popped up and it's just taken over our world. And we didn't even bat an eye at it. It's like we deserved it and we wanted it all along and needed it. It's not true. We did not need it. We got along just fine without being able to have every little trinket we want at the, push of a button. And it pays, it goes into this whole idea that we have to be okay with these things, and we have to, we have to play into these things. They rarely does any group or whatever just do anything to anybody. It really takes a certain amount of adherence from us, and we allow these things to take place. I'm not saying all of us, or we should be considered a monolith, but that's, at the end of the day, that's how it works. If 90% of the people around you are doing the same thing, they're more important than you. They just are. They're more counted for. They're more incentivized. That's just how everything works, and down to every little bit of your life. Think about school. Did any of the 90% of kids that just either kept their heads down or just did the drone like work get in trouble for doing any of that stuff? No, it's the ones who spoke out or felt like something was wrong about what they had to do. They're made kind of like an example of, or they're just cast out. They're left aside. But personally, I was on the first side because I was too loud. I couldn't. I wouldn't allow myself to just be cast out. I mean, unless they actually threw me out of school or something. But I had my fair share of trouble, and especially high school. Well, I say especially high school, but it was really all school. Yeah, I mean, I was homeschooled till third grade, so. But even then, I almost got cast out of that. Even then. But anyway, uh, yeah, these systems are moving at a rapid pace, and we know on the books that the agendas that they have coming down the pipeline. We cannot trust when they said that they were going to be. These things are tabletop D&D sessions by a bunch of, you know, what's that shit called? I already ruined it. I should have been more quick-witted with it. But the fetus enzyme or whatever. They're always talking about it. It's such like a buzzword. The idea that all these rich oligarchs are like drinking the, oh my gosh, what's that shit
The
called?
adrenochrome.
Yeah, adrenochrome. There you go. Damn. Anyway, that's what I meant. Just I'll cut that out, and you don't even know that happened. But yeah, these adrenochrome drinkers are pushing these agendas a lot quicker. I mean, they could do it at the drop of a hat, and it all might just be an unbalancing act, to keep us always unbalanced. And I do want to send a little bit of a challenge to your point, because I do agree with you. Like, personally, I agree with you that these things are coming to a head. First of all, my own personal philosophy tells me that there's something coming, whether we like it or not. And the people that are in power right now are trying to harness that or do it themselves, or even look to stop what naturally happens so that they can continue to be the kings of the castle. That's my personal opinion, but never mind all that. Let me just say an alternative idea is that we're not anywhere near our time, if you will, or any kind of natural cataclysm. That, in my opinion, that is also a valid take, that this is all done to keep us off balance, all done to keep people that, like me and you, that are skeptical and pessimistic of our governments, we give ourselves away almost. It's the more I think about this a lot, it's just like sometimes I do feel like I'm playing into a hand. Do you ever feel like that? That even though I think that I'm doing things that are off kilter, and I'm trying to stay away from certain things, they have that they have that down too. They have my
Right.
archetype already down, and they've dealt with people like me before, and it's not really anything that's too far out of the mainstream. That's why I really think it's going to take a legitimate revolution. And this isn't any kind of call for cannon fire yet. And but
Yeah, I mean, I say it all the time, and this is what I was saying in the last episode too, and I said this over and over is at the end of the day, I mean, you have to look at it. There's only so much you can do. I mean, and the thing is too, I mean, like like I said, I've been, almost back to Washington now for 3 years. It'll be 3 years in May, and or at the end of May, and it's like, that's coming up here in a couple months, and I think about just that time. I mean, that's 3 years. I mean, it'd be 30 years, and so 3 years. That's 10% of my life. That's a lot of life so far in just 3 years. Just 10%. So you look at something like that, and it's like just the changes and what's happened to me in that time, and where things have gone, and just that 10% of my life, and how I feel about things, how things are changing. I mean, it's just uh, a phenomenal feeling to be where I am. Just like knowing that, just you're on the mark of, your 30s, but but if you're still here for your 40s, if you're still part of this world, it ain't gonna be this world no more. You're gonna be in a whole new sector at that point if you make her that far. So, I mean, I know what I'm on the verge of. I know I'm on the cusp of it. I see it every day, and it's absolutely alarming. It's phenomenal that they are able to do things so covertly, so under the covers, but it's yeah, I mean, you just see who. It's like I said, I mean, and you brought up a great point. It's like, what do you turn? What do you do? I mean, it's just like that's kind of why I always find myself in the spots I'm in too, because I can't really, like, I just, like I said too in the last episode, it's like you just don't have any options. I mean, there's just no more options. I mean, there used to be options. You used to be able to do different things, and have more of a chance to be on the outside of things, and you don't have to really get involved. But nowadays, you really do have to, like I said, really, sell out to a bit. It's like you can't really get away all that much. I mean, there's only so much you could do, and there's only so many options you have, and it's like, yeah, it's like no matter what you do, where you go, how you turn, yeah, you mean, what job you do, how you live your life, yeah, it's still, yeah, you're still paying the taxes, you're still part of the problem. It's just like, um, and that's where the revolution has to happen. I mean, you have to have enough people, um, at some point, just turn away. But I mean, at this, that's the only, what it would really have to be is the way I see it is it would have to be like almost like a half kind of revolution at best, and then we just kind of sort it out from there, and just kind of, uh, you know kind of go our own ways from that point. Is kind of how I see it done. But I mean, you still have to even get to that point, and to be where we are, and to be so far away from that. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, it's like, to me, it's like maybe I've been, too positive and too optimistic in my life, especially in my teens and my 20s, because it's kind of almost how I feel like, maybe I just was way too positive and optimistic, and I gave humanity too much credit, and and it's just, and then it's just, me on the other side, having such a problem with the world, and having such a problem with just getting through all of it, and then just being in the situations I am. It's like, yeah, it's like there's a lot of people right now that are in a similar situation, but they're not, they're nowhere where they need to be. I mean, the people don't have access to what they should have access to, the information that we talk about all the time, and like I said, at this point, it's like, I mean, yeah, we'll keep talking about the numbers and the dates, the gematria and everything, but it's like at this point, it's like, uh, we almost just have to just find a completely different route or way to go. I mean, to even have a shot of connecting with people at this point is basically the way it seems, or at least the take I'm getting from it.
Yeah, it does. It certainly feels like we're crescendoing pretty rapidly, and a lot of people say it's kind of like egotistical, and to think that we are the ones that get to see the end of this era, if you will, or it's like egotistical to always think that you're the generation, or you're the ones to see the massive thing take place. But tell that to the people during the world wars and these other events. I bet there's a lot of people in World War One and Two that thought this is it. That they didn't have all the information that we could possibly have on all the other countries and all the other things we've come to learn and things of that nature, but they know enough to understand that these things work in patterns and cycles. And in the midst of World War One, I mean, think about the enemies of the Axis, if you will, that they like to call themselves, or were called. I don't know if they call themselves that, but you know, of all countries affected, some of the worst off were the enemies of the so-called allies. And I can imagine a lot of Germans thought, oh, this is it. This is, Germany is not going to be after this. This is going to be the start of the never-ending conflict, and it'll just never end. Well, to be honest, it hasn't ever ended. It still isn't over. But I mean, like, as far as the bombings and things that took place, a lot of people do need to have a little bit more diligence with their study on the world wars. I think, not that I am like some aficionado per se. It's just I'm astounded with how many people don't know about just all the things we did to Germany that would seem like they're very extra, if you will. I just put it that way. Quite extra for what, even what was. I won't even go there. I'm not even going to say what I want to say. But anyway, yeah, that's honestly stupid. It's honestly stupid that I feel like I shouldn't say what I want to say there. I will can it for another episode or something. Maybe make it a themed episode. Hidden history, false history. That'd be a fun episode, I think, because I can come with a lot. I'm sure you got a lot, and I think that'd be a fun one because we could bounce around the place. I mean, we could start doing like an encyclopedia of history. Trying bouncing around from era to era, and showing what we know about it and discovering together, and uh, all that kind of stuff. But I still do think people should at least have a cursory understanding, or understanding of at least narratives. I don't know how much of it is true and how much of it is truly the people that they said were these people were doing these things to that people, and those people are this people. Who cares at the end of the day? But as far as espousing a narrative in this day and age based on that day and age, it's you should at least know what they said in that day and age happened. But it's very strange. I mean, from certain people's perspectives, I don't think that you would look at the allies as the good guys. But let me just put it that way. Let me just put it that way, and I'll leave it there right on the table for anybody else to come and pick up. But I'm not going to be talking about it anymore. But since we're on this whole topic, and we got just over an hour left, we've kind of danced around what we were planning on talking about, and it's kind of naturally just been happening. But from politics to sports to the human element, we've been inserting into all of these ideas. What if that human element's gone? What if this cataclysm or this apocalypse or whatever happens, even if there are humans that remain, but our world is just so different from this, that what will that look like? How do you see that happening? Like you mentioned earlier, the next 20, 30, 40 years, what's that timeline looking like? What is what are the causes in your mind? Who are the players? And is everybody gone, or are there still some remaining? What does that look like in our for our future?
I think a big, a way, almost like an analogy to use for this is kind of like to think about, like, if I never like owned a car, say I never like paid for insurance, I never, paid gas, never paid for cars, and all these things like that, all the maintenance and, paying for, um, fines and tickets and everything that goes into it. I mean, all the tax on everything, your tabs, your registration, your, um, repairs, all that stuff. So I mean, if you tallied all that stuff and just added it to your total of your life, I'd probably have, like a couple $100,000. It'd be for all that money you put into the car. It's like that's what I see with this. It's like if you took people out of the equation, which is kind of like what they've done. It's a drastic change. It's I know there was that show, like I said, I told you about, that was like back in like 2009, called like Day, or After Life After People, or whatever, or like whatever that was called. I used to watch that back in the day. It's crazy. That was like over half my life ago now, but yeah, like that's kind of what I really see when I look at this. It's like, like if people like, especially for the 500 million, whenever we get down to that number, um I believe, wherever, and it's hard to say, where will most people even be living. I mean, uh, I kind of look at like a lot of people kind of being down by, you know, maybe by the equator, areas like that are kind of warm year round. Um, if there is only 500 million people left, where are they living? And they're, what are they doing? I mean, because kind of what you have to look at, it's kind of like they're kind of, destroying the United States, but there's other places in the world they're kind of building up. So, and there's other places they're kind of not touching. So you kind of have to look at where they're going, where they are, what they might do. Um, yeah, I feel like people might, have that kind of return towards nature where they're, in those kind of settings. You might still have people living in different climates and stuff and just kind of all over, but I believe it's going to be more, probably, whoever of the 500 million. I mean, they might have like subgroups, but there won't be places that I don't think are going to have too much population. I think it's just going to be, segments, and just kind of maybe, uh, small amounts divided in certain areas, or just kind of little sporadic, areas of people here and there. That's kind of what I see. If depending how things go, but, um, it kind of really depends too. How we get there. We could see a war. We might have, you know uh, huge natural disaster, or something happens where we have a lot of death. It's like living here in Washington. If I live in the kill zone, so if Mount Rainier blows up, I'm going to be dead. So it's something to think about too. I mean, um, there's so many things you have to look at for something like this, and too, like, if there were no people too, just like if people just did vanish, if people did disappear, if people are gone, I believe you're going to see, basically the Georgia Guidestones just come to fruition by themselves. You're going to see nature kind of retake itself, kind of reclaim. I believe clean itself up, clean up the planet a bit, just detox the poisons that we've been doing and stuff. Because I kind of feel like, and it's kind of a question too, within itself. It's like, the people that, rule over us, like, why would they spray the sky too if they have to live here and breathe this in? Well, maybe they do have, uh, something they take or do where they don't get as much of the poison, or they get the poisons out of them, or, maybe they do have something like that. I mean, I don't know. These people are, you know, billionaires and trillionaires and whatever. So it's like they're at the top. So it's like you don't know, they could have access to shit like this. Could be like um, almost like a tanning booth, like a tanning salon thing that just like you just sit in and just cleanses your body or something. I mean, who knows? I mean, um, I feel like what when they get done what they need done or what they want to do, I feel like there could be um just that the spraying might stop or be diminished to a point, or depending on where things go. It's just like it's hard to imagine. I mean, maybe some places will be, depending on what the situation is, maybe the spraying won't even be the same no more. Maybe some areas be left alone. Maybe they decide to move some things around. And then you have to look at too. It's like, well, what is is AI and just like robots and like cyborgs going to be just the future too? That's another way you got to look at it too. For the 500 million people that are left, it's like where is the rest of technology and stuff by that point too? Like, is it um is technology kind of leading the way? Do people kind of have the edge? Is it kind of a merger? Is it what was the technology destroyed? Did we get past that point? Or we what is the status quo going to be by that point? What, and then it's like too, like the style of living. What will life be like I said, if people are here, for the people that are left, that, like I said, I'm sure they want to um try and kind of clean up the planet for what's left. I mean, because if you look at the Georgia Guidestones, it's really the unravel and the reversal of what you have now, but on the other end. So, you got to look at it like, if you were going to be part of the people that are left of the world and society, um, what they want the utopia for themselves. So, the world might be a nicer, better place than we think it might be. Maybe like we believe the old times were, but it also could be something completely different too. I mean, I'm very open minded to the subject because, uh, I mean, they might have just where everything is just AI and tech and it's just running everything, and you have your cyborgs or whatever it's going to be. I mean, it could be a very futuristic utopia, or I mean, it could just be a means to the end where they just use that to get uh, kind of back to the old world again. I feel like um, either way, I feel like if people either disappeared, or the population gets cut down and whoever is left, really it's just going to depend on what the people that are left are going to kind of do. I mean, are they just going to keep? I don't think they're going to keep destroying the place. There's only they have the people. I mean, I think it's going to be the world's going to be quite possibly a much better place, but um, it'll be on the opposite end. Like, now we're going away. That's going to be going towards better things. I think, at least for the people that are here, assuming the people that are here are going to be like how we envision people now. I mean, who knows? Like I said, it could be something completely different.
Well, to piggyback on your ideas, personally, I think a lot of these things happen underground, as I think you do as well. I have my theory that, potentially 500 million people is a low estimate of how many people already live underground, out of the frame of what we see as, society, that will be repopulating the world when the fallout is, and the fallout doesn't need to be nuclear or whatever. I'm pretty high on that idea of that one movie, where the plants, they produce toxin because the world becomes toxic. So
Oh yeah.
they start breathing the toxins and they're like, oh, I can handle this. But in handling this, instead of making oxygen, I make carbon dioxide. So suck it, anything else that can't handle it. But I'm in to preserve, myself, the plant. Now, when the toxins disappear, say that span is around 20 years, or you know, I've played a lot of video games in my life, the Fallout series. You were even just talking about the radiation thing that's very prevalent in that game. It's very much so what they do. They sit in a little pod and deradiate it. But anyway, uh, if the what is the half life they'll say or whatever if it say it takes 100 years to for the world to become inhabitable again, you have to understand that the people that are coming up with these plans know they aren't going to be there to walk out of the doors when they reopen. That's how like tight knit these families are. That they have given like that's how I mean, if you can convince people of this idea, then you can start to understand all of the other things and how they fall into place. How these people seem to have almost no humanity. I'm talking about even more mundane things than just like in entertainment or the top of politics or anything like that. It's, some in some ways it's like the middle management of the world is also when you really look at it, it's just like, man, how do these people just keep pushing along these terrible things for humans? Well, it's because they've already signed on a dotted line. Them and their lineages are safe forever. They're going to be on the boat, which the boat is going to be underground. The boat means the ark, which means whatever it is, whatever cataclysm comes, they're going to be okay from it, and they have that down. And this is not to say that all of them come above ground at all. I think a lot of them live underground for good, and they're willing to give up their children because it's all for the greater good. Their children don't belong to them. Because they're resigned. It's kind of very cult like you can convince these people that the end of the world is coming, and to do these things to ensure their safety and their family's safety. At that point, they buy into it. At that point, they're eating good food. They're actually eating nutritious, real food. They're eating. Um, their family's doing great. They're getting a good, great education. They're coming up as you know polite, real good human beings. The kids are, and that's what's going to come up and repopulate the world eventually. But for 100 years they have to live underground and have a couple of generations down there. But once they come out, they'll be kings of the castle, on the reset. Like they'll be the only ones there to and they'll go in and inhabit and blah blah blah, regardless of all of that. I'm just saying, if you can assess that idea, you can understand why like a normal person would be okay with selling out millions of people that are really honestly just like them. Maybe they're not as inbred, but at the end of the day, it really is the selling out of a whole lot of people, what these people are doing. And I say they're doing it. I speak matter of factly because I truly believe that we live in a mole world, and there's a lot of people underground, and they give it to you even in games. Like there's I played a lot of shooter games, so in like Call of Duty and in uh, Rainbow Six Siege, there's these maps where you got to go to these like billionaires mansions that are underground in caves, and they're super ventilated, and they're like perfect, granite bay. Anyway, super nice mansions, underground facilities, if you will. And I've seen them. They've hinted at it. I'm well aware of the reality of these things, and it's just they don't straight up tell you that they have vaults. Vaults of hundreds and thousands of people that live together in communities and are okay with a certain ideal as long as it guarantees the repopulation of humanity whenever the thing happens. And I'm not even sitting here saying that what they're like it is a cult. I'm not saying they use cult like maneuvers, but I think they actually have the read on things. I think they actually know what's going to happen, and that's kind of pays into what I was saying earlier. Is like they know these things are going to happen, so why tell 8 billion people that can't fit on the boat? that's that's just going to be impossible to handle until the day whatever happens. happens, and they won't maintain power that way. But I really do think that that's how these things truly run. And so you were mentioning the 500 million. I don't think anyone above here is part of that 500 million. I don't even think most of the celebrities are. Maybe, there is that whole idea that they die and go away, and they just potentially go underground, or they like to show you those commercials where they go to a private island and they're sipping mimosas, and then they'll show you the Ewan McGregor uh, Super Bowl commercial for that travel agency where he's like walking through all the scripted scenes in this like tunnel, and he just he goes underground and he's walking through all these like Hollywood sets, and he comes out on a beach on an island, and it's just like, what are they showing me right now? What does this have to do with like traveling? What does Hollywood sets and coming out of a tunnel onto an island have to do with a travel company? Are you gonna? Can I go in the tunnel? Am I not taking a plane? Anyway, uh, so that's with the human aspect of it. That's just my personal opinion. Is that the 500 million are a number aside from any humans that are already on the surface. I think that this has to do with the number of people they maintain once they all come out. And that's not even to say they have 500 million right now, but their goal is to repopulate with 500 million. So let's say they have 100 million. That's a more manageable worldwide number. 100 million is really not that much. Like, think about like how underground city could hold, anyway, you can crunch those numbers, but eventually they'll have 500 million is how I interpreted those Georgia Guidestones. And the new living language, who knows what they're learning under there. The new living language could very well be code to program AI to and what you were saying about cyborgs and everything. Yeah, I do think that there will be robots, but I think the true technology of AI is meant for nanotechnology. And that is how they're going to stay alive longer. That's how they're going to expand their lifespan. It's because it's going to be a subversion of nature. That's what it always is. And I'm to the point now where I would much rather ideally I would much rather the Christian story be the real story, where nature and there's a God. Sure, you could say the God's not natural. Honestly, you could, right? Because as far as they'd say the God is omnipotent. He wasn't created. That's you know, everything that we call natural was created by him. So he's not natural. But anyway, I would prefer that as the reason why we lived to be 500 back in the day, so they say, or whatever. But they're going to subvert that natural, like oxygenated blood and larger organs. They're going to subvert that with nanotechnology that you just program with AI to scrape any negative thing that's in your body, to just keep you always at the right alkaline and right base levels in your body. And, you know, your diets will be perfect because all of the all of the food ever will be available to you. They will have, I'm sure these underground bases cover the horticulture and agriculture a lot. Like the main focus is what I'm trying to say, the science behind it. And yeah, I don't think they're going to have any problem. I think the 500 million, it refers to themselves and their protected people. And but even taking the human element out of it, it'd be interesting to see to it almost it would be interesting to be able to survive it. Let's put the human element back in it just for a minute. Just to say you were one of those 500 million people. It'd just be nice to have some questions answered, because I couldn't assume that the God of this plane would appreciate all of his things being taken out, without his necessary, not consent, because let's go with the Christian idea of a God, without, the idea that the world will be taken up by people that only wish to subvert him. At that point, at what point do you just say, all right, screw all this, and just like, crumple it up in your hand or whatever, and it's just like gone? It'd be interesting to see if, all the animals were wiped out by whatever this thing happens, while they're all underground, what the response would be from the world. You talked about the, nature reclaiming itself and everything like that. But would it reset the factory settings? Would the animals survive a toxic gas? No, they breathe oxygen. So it'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting to see the new plant world, which is also another thing. As if anyone hasn't seen like the biodome, they've been doing this idea for a long time. This whole plants taking over the world. Uh, it's a trope for sure, but it'd be interesting to have a question answered whether or not this world is so manipulatable that you can just do that. I think that's something that, that's a great unknown for even them. Like whether or not, which by the way, I do think all these ideals of the people going underground is Luciferian at its core. I'm not even saying I necessarily believe in Lucifer, the actual fallen angel, but this does come from that doctrine. The subversion of the natural way of life and keeping these bloodlines on top. But we're theory crafting. Let's not get too far into how things really are that no one wants to hear about.
Yeah, and like they say, by like what 2050, you're going to be able to live forever or whatever. So you that's going to be in our lifetime if we live that far, if we make it. But yeah, it's a very interesting concept of what exactly it is that they are doing, because yeah, you got to look at it. I mean, they are poisoning and trashing the planet. I mean, the spraying, I mean, all the poisons, the toxins, that they are killing everything and killing everything off. So, and like I said, do they have some remedy to that? Do they have something that it doesn't really affect them, or they're able to minimize it, or kind of cleanse it, or some kind of immunity to it? That is very interesting. And then, yeah, I agree 100% with the underground stuff, um, and how much stuff is underground, and what's really going on down there, how many people are actually here, and um, yeah, it's just it's hard to say, because it's like, and two, like like even when I like when I was watching, like Life After Gold and stuff, back in like like 2029 or 2009. um like I said, that was over half my life ago. The world wasn't even like this then. It wasn't this polluted, wasn't this poison. They weren't spraying like this. Um, yeah, things have changed drastically since that time, and they've gotten way worse. So, I mean, you have to look at it from that way too. I mean, it's like, are they just going to trash the upper world, and then just go underground, where the upper world is just, is it just going to be done for good up here? Is it going to take time to kind of get back to normal? Is it ever going to, kind of fix itself? Are they, are they, or is anyone planning to be, um, ever back, or come back to the upper ground or whatever? It's very interesting the way they are doing what they're doing, because you have to look at it too, like the timeline we are on. For as long as we know, I mean, the world being the way it is. But I mean, it's like I always say. I mean, they've just done so much bad things in such a short amount of time. I mean, like I said, like the spraying just kind of like starting there kind of like in the 90s or the mid 90s or whatever to the, around that time. And then, it just started popping up, and then, where we are now and how they've changed everything. And you have to look at it too. Like you said, are the animals ever really going to come back? I mean, are they ever going to be the same? I mean, and then what kind of plants are you going to have? And, what exactly is going to happen? And then you have too, you have, um, like I said, with all the, like the deforestation and stuff, like I mentioned last episode too, like in South America and all that stuff like that. Um, would these things ever come back? Will it just be too much poison? Because I mean, they're destroying the place so bad. I mean, it's not, you know, it's. I mean, we're able to survive as it is right now, but I mean, it's getting to the point where, um, I hate to say it, even 5 years from now, if we're still here, we're almost going to be wishing we weren't, or we were underground. I believe, because I believe they do plan on absolutely trashing us as long as we're still breathing at the point we wish we weren't breathing. I believe that is a huge part of it. They are hoping we wish for our own demise, and it's like, well, you're being poisoned and strangled and killed every day. I mean, yeah, you're just going to wish you were dead. I mean, that's sadly, unfortunately, what they're doing. It's kind of like a learned hopelessness type deal.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and talk about tropes they've given you. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Children of Men, or lots of different movies. So, give you this idea of like the government subsidized free suicide pills. And then you're just like, oh, that's outlandish. Nope, already exists in our world. And I remember when assisted suicide was like one of the hotter topics when I was like younger, or maybe I was in high school, but younger still. And I remember it being such a hotly covered, controversial topic. And then they're just like, no, that's fine. And also, we'll make a pill that you can just go and die too. So that's if you really want to. But yeah, I mean, uh, if you haven't seen Children of Men, I would recommend that movie. Not that I'm a movie recommender. I say that every time I recommend a movie, but it does. It has a lot of themes in there that are. I would put it up there with. I would say it's an iconic film that maybe isn't like as well known as it should be. Some of its the other ones that are considered, the They Lives and the Idiocracy type things. But this is another one that gives itself away, and it puts you into the main character's seat. And as long as you know that, then you really see that they're just like force feeding you their agenda and showing you what your world has to look forward to. And you're right, hopelessness. And you have this idea that these people will be more than willing to, take the easy way out. And interestingly enough, too, we have all these like toxins in our air, or, virus toxins, right? Well, what about natural toxins? I could see that, that's what I've been talking about this whole time. I just see that, potentially the biggest threat to us is a natural one that, is something, from a, think about, you were just talking about South America, and then there's like the Amazon and stuff like that. What if it has a defense mechanism and it fights back in some way, not to say that it's like growing a brain and has like a mother brain or whatever, but it decides. I mean, think about mushrooms too. It's like these, they're colonial, or mushroom colonies are, can be miles long, and those are poison anyway. So they produce spores and things of that nature, and um, that could be the thing that hits people. And then what I was having to say with that is, we're trained to understand a virus right now, and oh, I'm good. I got my diaper on. Well, I mean, you have these people already that bought the virus aspect, this, the programming of of nature, could be the next pandemic. It could be, I mean, here's the thing, it already is. Toxic algae is one of the biggest issues in our world right now. And I was
Oh
even going to
yeah.
mention that. I think that was one of my answers to one of your questions. Not to say it's an answer, but a theoretical answer is algae. Algae will come and it will eat all of the toxins. It'll make everything highly toxic for a long time, but it will eat it. It'll turn a toxin into a digestible toxin for the atmosphere, whether or not that's carbon monoxide or whatever it is. The atmosphere will filter it out eventually. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to sit down here and breathe it, but eventually it would go away and we'd be able to come back out and the algae would be back to normal. It's not like the algae would just die without the toxins. The algae is very much so a filter. It's a liver of it's a plant liver. It deals with all the, it's like the endocrine system of plants of the world. It's like the what is it? Whatever it was, the I always forget what it's part of the endocrine system, but it's, you have them all over, not thyroids, but anyway. Uh, yeah, it's like your natural filter of all things bad. There's multiple plants, not just algae, but that's one of the main ones. And so yeah, it's interesting. My whole point behind that was like just the pre-programming for us to be wearing masks and accepting a fate that's like basically you can't do anything about it. And it's also a reason to get us into these 15-minute cities with, because 15-minute cities right now, the plan is to have like cities that already exist. But if you look in like the Middle East, they're building these like sci-fi cities. When you're playing a video game, you visit these like cities that are all self-contained and everybody lives there, and it's like Star Wars. That's what is being built right now, and they're existing. They're going to exist. They've already exist. They just need to be put into effect, and that would give a lot of people the idea. Think about the bum rush to get into there. It'd be like an arc type of an idea. You'd have all these people that want to preserve their families and their lineages, and they would do anything to get their families signed up for the arc city. You know what I mean? Because, look at the people living outside. They have to wear the rebreathers all the time, and they have to wear, and it's just like, oh, you have to go to the city and show them your credits to hopefully to get some more reoxygenator masks. It's just like, man, I could make the movie right now. But in fact, I think it's already been made. There's a movie called like District 9 or District something like that, uh, about robots and unbreathable atmospheres and the dust bowl that's coming when life stops happening. Anyway, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. And as far as like animals not coming back, I don't believe in evolution in the terms that it's been set forth. I do believe in evolution. I think that's kind of one of the catch-22s they like to just to fuck with people. It's like you say you don't believe in evolution, but like evolution, I think does exist. I think there's proof that evolution exists in a way, but the way that they say it is bullshit. It's I think it's quantifiable bullshit, but uh, I do think that evolution is real, but it's not in the way. It's not like metamorphism. It's not like metamorphic. I think butterflies. Well, I think caterpillars will always turn into butterflies. They're not going to randomly turn into spiderflies. They're not going to randomly. You know what I mean? I don't think that is a thing. That there could be some sort of different genetic code in animals that allows them to do that potentially, and maybe that can spread to humans or something like that. I don't know. That's all above my pay grade, I guess, uh, for my matter of fact theory crafting talk. But I tend to think that if all the animals were to disappear, they'd be gone. And what we get next would be some sort of amalgamation of what's left. And that's not to say that it wouldn't be able to exist. I'm not saying things can come from pond scum, but I think a lot of things would survive is what I'm trying to say. I think the proof that, you know, most bugs don't breathe oxygen in that way. Yes, they can't exist in a vacuum, but they don't like necessarily oxygen isn't the fuel to their bodies. They don't have hearts and lungs that require oxygenated blood running all the time. It's very fascinating to think about like the different levels of life on this world and like what the hell are we talking about? What is a bee? What is that thing doing? What is that there? Look at it. I mean, earlier today, I was even just looking at a damn ostrich, and I'm like, I have never looked at an ostrich as close as I am right now. What the hell am I looking at? Like, I think it's so normal to most people, they never really look at it. It's just like, what the hell? That thing is as alien as it gets. And it's just like such a common thing for some people, I think. But it's crazy looking.
Yeah, it's like too. I mean, they're not just poisoning the air too, and poisoning the water and the food and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also I mean, they're blocking out the sun too. So
Yes, sir.
that's that's what I mean. Everything is just so multifaceted. I mean, it's not, we're controlling the weather with that. We're poisoning you. We're blocking out the sun. We're hitting you in 10 ways with one thing at least. And with them, like blocking out the sun and the sky used to be blue, the sun used to be yellow, now the sun and the sky are both white. Um, and what they've done with that, and then when you combine um, just what they have been doing, like I've said, this is back in 2017, Operation Solar Shield by Harvard. This has been going on for a long time, and obviously, you block the sun, you kill off everything, you kill off the plants, the animals. So yeah, I mean, it's you have to wonder: are we going to a world where they plan on just covering up the sun? They're just going to live underground, and there's not going to be nothing going on up here no more. I mean, it's kind of what I'm seeing. I mean, it's like, do they? It's like, and then you have these other theories too, um, like if they kill everything off, and then whatever is left or whatever, if things do make a comeback, and like there's so many animals that are going extinct. I mean, you have how many animals right now? I mean, look how many birds are dying. Look how many insects are dying. Look at how everything is just so down. I mean, um, and then you have the ocean life being destroyed, the ocean being polluted. You don't have um, anything being sustained, so they're killing everything off. But it's like, do they plan on um, bringing things back with something else? Will things kind of change or more through, like you said, evolution? Will we see a change? It's like the Greek mythology, the Greek things. It's like that people say, oh, it's just fantasy, but I think those things actually were real. I mean, you look at a cyclops, or you know, horseman, all those things like that, and um, just all of,
Scorpions.
yeah, titans and
Mm-hmm.
all these
Dragons.
mythical, yeah, dragons and hydras and
Mm-hmm.
all these different things, sirens. It just like all these things really intrigue me. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it seems like they could be, shifting the world to that next phase where we enter something like that again, where maybe there are things above ground, or living things, or animals, or something, but or people, but it's completely changed. It's completely different. It's the next phase. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see things kind of come back that were once here or something, but um, I feel like this is something where they can kind of reset the world to whatever they want, and it's like whatever they, or like I said, if they're just going to be their underground world, they're just chilling underground. They're done with the upper ground world. This place is smoked. So yeah, I think they kind of have. I mean, whatever they want to really do at this point. I mean, and like I said, we did like our videos on like the Great Wall of China and like underground bunkers and all that stuff where we know this stuff is or dumbs or whatever, but they have all these things that people don't realize, like how much of this is just everywhere. Like um, there's even the underground city in Seattle. I've never been to it. Ever in
Portland as well.
yeah, I've never been to it, but I know there's people that say they have or they did, but yeah, like I've never even seen that. Like you just never realize like how many things are right there, right above you, right below you that you didn't even know existed. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I brought this up. It might be hard to read on the video and everything, but yeah, look it up. And this thing, Scope X is what it was called. You might get confused if you look up, because they like to do it this way. There's like 4 different things for um, solar shield. This that they use this name for like 4 different things that were like very similar to Event 201 type of things where they, NASA held a conference on it, or maybe not a conference, but a workshop or whatever to, theory crafting things. And then, but here, Scope X is the name of the one that Harvard was set to do. In fact, I think they were set to last year. They were still pushing, or last year is when it got blocked by, I looked into this before. It got blocked by one facet of government. Who knows if they really blocked it or whatever. They just said, no, look, we have the people's best interest. There's something wrong with this. We're not going to do it. So their hands behind their back with the fingers crossed. But it got blocked. But then, like you point out, this has been on the table for a long time. And just think about all the students that went to school that worked on this and believe in
Yeah.
this. And they want to block out the sun using chemicals, carbonates or calcites or whatever it is. I can't remember. So it's like chalky substances that are supposedly non-toxic, and they believe that it's our goal is to block out the sun. And I've gone back and forth. They're kind of teeter totter. And I try to sit somewhere in the middle on this subject because they are doing that. They are definitely doing that. Why they're doing it, half the time I think they're trying to preserve their cattle, which is us, and that there is a real reason to block out the sun because the sun is not natural anymore. There's something with it. I don't know if it ever was natural, honestly. And you want to talk about Greek lore and stuff like that. It's like Apollo's a dude. He's a dude who rides a horse that is the sun. So I think there's this other idea that it's manipulatable, uh, and there's quite possibly it is. What it even is it a big ball in the sky or in space burning? It's up there with dinosaur bones for me. There's so much. It's like I just there's only so much I can actually believe. It's like I don't need to believe it. Here's the thing: I don't need to believe it. It doesn't affect my daily life to know the science behind the actual like reality or the scientific narrative of the sun. So anybody that sits there and wants to talk about how they know what the sun is because they read a science book about what the sun is, I don't care. You're just as ignorant as somebody who knows nothing about it, in my opinion. What we should know about the sun is the things that other cultures do know about the sun and what we should be doing at specific solstices and times of the year for our body cycles. That's about all we should know and care about the sun. And maybe signs by what the sun does. If the sun is a natural thing, or if it's even unnatural, if we've lived here as long as we say, and we have the human, if we've indexed what we should be doing over the years based on the cycles of the sun, I would assume that at some point, either this is a brand new thing to humans, like you mentioned, the sun has definitely changed. That was a fact. What you said, there's undeniable. It's not like some, oh, you just remember a different time. No, 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 no. It's the world smelled different, and it's not because my nose was different. Everything, the things were much different in the sky and in our atmosphere literally not that long ago. Okay, people, it's not like you're dealing with two people under 40 years old talking to you. This is not some like thing this is very recent that these changes happened. And yeah, you like you said, you get the white skies with the white sun, and the moon's even changed. But sticking to the sun, um they have plans to block it out. There's people that believe in this idea, and it's like I said, to me, it's to pretend that we know what the hell the sun is. I think that it's just so egotistical. Just like the dinosaur bones, just like you get these people that say, they go and they dig up something this big and they say it belonged to the thing that was 50, 100 feet tall and 50 feet across and had razor sharp claws that could rip its prey apart. And it died when it was just about to make love to a big rock that it was affectionate for. And it's just, they just make up this like side story for it. And other dinosaurs, I think they called it Raymond. I think it was called Raymond. We could tell from this small orbital bone that would have, this is the orbital bone that would have went right in between his like pelvis, like dick area. So that's how we know that he was just about to really get it on with a big boulder. We could also tell that he was a loner dinosaur, and he didn't really. That's why he missed out on the mating season. And poor Raymond, he was, he had to get it on with a rock to get his rocks off. That's where that term comes from. The cavemen saw that and they're like, rocks, rocks off. So yeah, and that's also something we know because we just know all about the old cavemen people. I also think, speaking of, I'm making jokes and everything, but I think caveman is a big joke. Like, it's a big joke to get us to say caveman in reference to people that were no, cavemen are the people they're the future people. The cavemen are the people
Yep.
of the future. They're coming out of the caves learned. They're not coming out in leopard like wraps. They're coming out with their tweed hats and their reset clothes, their FUBU. I don't know what they're gonna be wearing, but their lug boots. future garb that's an interesting topic to think about. But anyway, but yeah, I think cavemen is always been a big joke to pretend that we know like what early humanoids were, and then and to for what it is to be such a divisive racist thing. Like, how did, if it was truly what, just the research and study of what we used to be, why is it racist? Like, why is it like always have to do with like who was better and who proliferated the most, and that makes these other types of humanoids lesser? These Africanoid lesser skeletons, they just really weren't doing very good. They were cannibalizing each other. But then you have these Europeanoid ones, and man, they were really just doing great. They were doing great. They had dyes, they had the first boat. We found traces of a wheel. We have wheel marks around the graves of the dig sites, which tells me that they were driving, 95 Ford Mustangs. And meanwhile, the Africanoids, they just began to understand the stick. They were just starting to understand how a stick could be used. And we find a lot of them with only one eye because they'd poke it out because they just didn't know how to use the stick. But these Europeanoid skeletons were just, man, they had septic systems. We haven't found them yet, but we just assume they did because we haven't found any poop. Whereas the Africanoid ones, they're just buried in poop. So I think that's what they did with their dead is they just pooped where they put the people that died from the stick injuries. Anyway, I'm sorry. This has gone on long enough. I'm just saying, like, the study of these things is it's so polarizing. If it was just a factual study, case study on how things are, it wouldn't come out like these findings wouldn't. It would be humankind, but it's not. It's always like, oh, the British skeletons are just so much more dandy than the other ones. It's just like you're someone getting paid to do a job, and that's what you come up with. And just tell us what it is, and if it's real, it's real. But I don't think any of that crap is real, honestly. Caveman crap.
Yeah, I mean the way they always mock it and poke fun of it too just says it all right there. And yeah, it's like I mean everything they do, it's like you were saying. I mean, and I said this a lot in the last episode too, how just they've changed and just the world has changed in our lifetime and just my lifetime in 30 years. Um, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, for people that are younger, they won't know, they won't remember like just the way the sun used to feel. Just it was warm, it felt good. Um,
You could
it
look at
did,
it.
yeah,
You weren't supposed to, but you could look at it.
yeah, it didn't. I remember back in like 2017 when like Operation Solar Shield was really kicking off. Like I got, like I've said too before, it was like I'd be doing like asphalt construction there back in Wisconsin there before I moved to Seattle, and I'd be like it'd be like a kind of a cold like 50, 60 degree day with no sun. It's completely like gray. Um, there's no sun, but yet my skin, I'm like burning. I got like the worst sunburn. I like still have like the marks on my skin today on my shoulders from 2022. Um, yeah, I just felt like I was on fire, like I was just burning. My body was stinging, and just these burns I was getting. I'm pretty sure they were spraying something in the sky to like poison me and like fuck me up or something. But yeah, this is, I mean,
Sorry to cut you
nothing.
off, but you get like the worst sunburns with the refracted light. That could be as well, like these turbo cancers that are all coming up about. Not to. You're a healthy guy. I think you're fine. I think your endocrine system is doing just fine. But you think of the unhealthy people that are in this. They're basically putting magnifying glasses in the sky. These are
Oh yeah.
silicates. These are aluminum silicates. They refract light and they amplify light in most cases. So it's interesting when you look up the chemistry of the things they're spraying when they're saying they're like blocking out the sun, and then also they're saying that chemtrails. That's not what they are. They're just condensated air gas that is in the fuselage. It's like, huh? And it only comes out sometimes, huh? And it comes out in tic-tac-toe patterns, and you make little circles and stars with it on accident. Whoopsies. Okay. Sorry, I cut you.
Yeah, the tic tac toe, the checkerboard. That's when it really started popping up there in 2017. Yeah, yeah, and for people that are um younger, yeah, I mean you won't know what we're talking about. But yeah, you go back to the 90s, early 2000s. I mean, it's so hard to put that time like in perspective, like really explain it because everything was just so different. I mean, yeah, the sky was, still blue, the sun was yellow, but like I said, the sun just felt good. It felt warm. I mean, the air just smelt and felt different. The trees just smelt and felt different. Just life was just different. I mean, the air, now it's just like, I mean, you look, everything just looks now. I mean, things used to look healthy. They used to smell healthy, used to feel healthy. Now everything just the way it looks, it just looks dead. It looks like it's dying. You can really see the poison, the decay, like the cancer of things, and just the way the trees look, and just nature, and just the way the air smells. I mean, there's just a weird smell in the air now, and like the air just stinks, and you can just yeah, everything just looks so shitty now. I mean, just uh, compared to the way it used to. I mean, you look at you just look at the sky on even a clear day where they're not spraying. I mean, it's not even. I mean, it's a pale blue at best. It might be blue, but it's a pale blue. It's
Mhm.
not the rich blue like it used to be. I mean, like I said, the sun used to feel so good, like, and you could just like the way like just being outside, like just um was totally different. Like just like the way like just like if I was outside all day, like how I'd feel and just like um
Mhm.
what I'd get out of
100%.
it versus now where it's like I said, where like the air used to smell and feel good, and um now it's got this like weird odor to it. It doesn't smell the same. It don't feel the same. The way that the sun feels isn't the same. I mean, it's like um and two, it's like everything is like I said, it just looks bad. I mean, everything used to look good. It used to look, alive. And now everything just looks like it's dead. It looks like it's dying. It looks like it's decaying. You just don't have like enough and like if the sun is out, it's like now too, it's like it used to be like the sun used to feel like it kept me like warm, but now it's like if the sun's out, it's like either like you're hot or you're cold, but it's like it's almost like a lot of times the sun's really not out, and a lot of times
Mhm.
what they do is they'll be spraying, and the sky is just white. I mean, it's just white, and there's just nothing going on. Where before, if it was like that, it'd be because it's like, oh, it's like gonna rain or it's raining or something.
Mhm.
It's like the weather is completely changed in my life. Everything is completely changed. I mean, it's um, and you notice like I said, there used to be tons of insects and bugs and stuff outside, and a lot of it's died off. I mean, um, you barely see any bees anymore. You might see like one or two a summer or something, or like one a month. It's crazy. You just don't see it no more. And then you have all the other, like I said, the birds and stuff that are dying off, and uh, you don't really. I mean, even like lately too. Like I haven't heard like a lot of like birds like singing and chirping. Like usually you do like this time of year, like spring's coming and stuff, and um, we're on the verge of you know the new year starting and stuff. And usually, there's a lot more like active in like animal activity and stuff, but I just don't see it no more. I mean, it's completely gone. So, I mean, I just feel like they've really stifled the planet of just life in general. And I just feel like, um, you know, we're just old enough to know and remember. And then you got, the other people that are maybe our age or older, but they don't remember it, they don't see it, and they don't care, they don't get it, even though they might or they don't look at it as a problem. It's like or like it's a bad thing.
Mhm.
It's crazy. And some areas, um like some states, I know like Wyoming, they'll come and like spray your yard, your grass, like in the middle of the night. They'll put like pesticides and shit on it. Um and they'll just it'll be real like fucking noisy, and like it'll probably like wake you up, and they'll come into your yard and just like spray all this nasty chemicals and shit on your grass. And on your yard and everything. It's bad for the grass and the soil, and it makes you sick, and it kills your pets and your animals and shit. So it's um yeah, I mean and then too, I mean, just all the little things they do, like I said, with even like plastic in the ocean, and that builds up, and then that causes all the problems you have. So you have all the ocean life dying off, um, that can't sustain anymore either. And so you have, you have the land life, the ocean life, and of course, like I said too, they spray the ocean as well with ships and stuff. So there's nowhere to hide, there's nowhere to run. You're gonna get it. So Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we're for people that, are younger, you really missed out, and I think they've really taken advantage of, like, the time of our life, because to
Mhm.
live through as much change as we have in 30 years, I mean, it's just absolutely uncomprehendable what they have for the next 30, and it's, um, how far we're even gonna get making this. It's like it's really, like, too, like, to think about the next 5 years, I mean, um, or to think till even, like, 2039, I mean, there's gonna be, I mean, we can't even sit here and think about right now, because this world will be completely gone and transformed by then. So, and it's just multiplying. Everything's just multiplying. It's just getting faster. It's getting faster. I mean, uh, like I said, time used to go by so slow, and now it's just like the day, just you get up, it's time to go to bed already. And I think that's a lot with the spraying too. I mean, it uh, shortens the day, shortens your perception of time as well.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, dude. And yeah, I just, man, it's reminiscent. It really is rough because you hit the nail on the head. It's just there's really no. I mean, you said it all. It's just you can. It's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to actually experience it. And it's not like the '90s were perfect, but man, that, like I've said this multiple times, that I feel like we had a chance in the '90s. If we were adults in the '90s, we could have made a bigger impact. And that's not to say that we can't make an impact. And I want to say this too. A lot of our rhetoric, if you will, it might come across because you don't know us potentially, or you might not be hip to the pessimist sentiment. But I think everybody should be pessimistic to a degree. Uh, Better to be a pessimist than just straight naive, in my opinion. But on on top of that, we have our own personal will. Like we might talk pessimistic a lot, but I have a lot at stake. I have a family that I'm, all in for, and I've mentioned this too. I'm also a realist. I'm in it for myself too. Like I'm not gonna march to the drum. I'm not going to march to the drum. I don't, and we talk about these things, and it, honestly, maybe we could change our tune a little bit, but it is hard to because we're speaking honest and logistical and logical about the reality of where things are and where we see that they're heading. And there's no point in lying to you and saying, oh, actually, you know what, I see it really turning around. It's really going to turn around here. In fact, I saw 3 Bs last week, so the Bs are back. No, we're not going to sit here and tell you some BS like that. And but I'm speaking for you a little bit here, but I just because in the small amount of time I've known you, we have our own wills. We're gonna move forward through this. We're gonna navigate this, and especially if we're in it together, still doing what we can do. That's we'll be doing it. It's not like we sit and cry after our episodes and wish that the world was different and someone would come, save us. That's not our thinking at all, and or at least not mine, and I don't think that's yours either. We're very much just. I think it's just a realist attitude, and I think a realist in the '90s sounded a lot more like happy because there was chances for good things in reality at a easier. You could grasp them easier. Nowadays, it's not so, and it's ourselves to blame, including me. I'm not saying just humankind. I'm saying me included with that humankind. I very much so don't. I don't. It's not lost on me that I'm one of us. We are one of us. It sucks where we are, and we've paid into it too. So we're all, you know, sucking on government teat to an extent, and it's all different ways at the end of the day until, a large majority of people are off of it. It makes no difference whether me and Austin aren't on it. It makes no difference. Even if we were to go fully off grid, hell yeah, dude, we're going off grid all the way. Okay, we'll just go die off grid. What does that matter for the world? What does that matter? It does, and maybe it's not about the world. Okay, so, okay. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm sick and tired of the direction humanity's headed in. And like I said, I'm part of humanity. I can speak about this because what do you know? We're all humans. Just like, how certain clubs and groups will say you can't speak on things because you're not like that club or group. Guess what? We're all humans. So everybody can talk about humans. I've never seen that argument thrown back at anybody, but that's my argument. It's always been my argument. You could say, if I, if there's a fault in me that deserves to be called out, call it out. It's not like because you're not associated with my group that you can't say anything about me. It's ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, I think, as things get better with the world getting better and people getting better, these sentiments, this pessimistic sentiment, I think it deserves to be there because a small amount of pessimism slash paranoia, I think, is healthy in order to not be fooled like everybody is right now. But it would change its flavor. It would change its tune. It wouldn't come across so kind of like dire, if you will. But I think it's safe to say that neither one of us are in a dire situation. It is a dire situation, and we see it for what it is. But I think we're both hopeful in what we can do personally to extend our situations towards other people and even just for ourselves. Like I said, you can be selfish in these situations. I would so much rather this world become like selfish. Okay, it already is selfish, but I wish it would you could maintain being selfish. I don't think selfish, the connotations are all screwed up. Everything is all screwed up. Like, everyone, nice is such a good thing. No, it's not. Selfish is such a bad thing. No, it's not. I think I would trade selfish for like the march to the beat of the tyrant's drum any day. You get a bunch of people that just want to be by themselves and have what they want and get what they want. I don't even care if what they want is nerds rope all day until their teeth fall out. As long as they're not, getting it from a government subsidized, sanctioned walk this way and you can have a nerds rope. Sure, be selfish. Selfish is way better in that instance. So it's all about like context and connotation. And, whereas like a nice person, it's like, oh, I just filed the amendments for this corrupt judge. I'm so nice. Come, I'll buy you a cup of government sanctioned Starbucks Bill Gates coffee right now. I'm so nice. I'm such a nice guy. I'm so nice. It's just like it's all about context and connotations. I think, like I've said before, I'll die on this hill. And I've been nice in my life. I haven't always been the nicest person, and like I'm nice. I think I'm deservedly nice. That's what I would call myself. I never really see the reason to just. In fact, I make a lot of my first impressions awkward because I'm not nice back. You know what I'm talking about? Like some people are just so nice to you, and they think that makes they think that deserves being treated like overwhelmingly nice back. And sometimes I'm just like, oh hey, yeah, sure. And it's just like I make things so awkward sometimes because I can't just like be fake nice. And anyway, but yeah, that was my little diatribe on just so to set the record straight, at least for me. And I did speak for you a little bit. I'll let you close us out and clear up if anything I said was off base. My bad if it was.
No, I think you pretty much said everything as it is. I mean, yeah, I mean, and I said it earlier tonight too. I mean, at this point in my life, it's more to me about, starting to just be honest about things and accept things too, because I've been the same way where I just feel like I've been maybe too positive, too optimistic, too just too nice at times, maybe, but yeah, just like I don't know. It's just like trying to be at this point in my life and trying to still like it's a very difficult situation. It's very hard to like describe because like I mean, for people, to put themselves in like um I guess like our shoes, we've lived through so much different times. We've seen the world, fall away and decay the way it has. Where younger people, they didn't come into that. They weren't born in it. They were already kind of in a shithole or in a shitty spot as it is. Whereas, we were, the good days were going away and the shit days were coming. They were already kind of born into the shit, so they don't really feel like they've lost anything, or they don't really see the negative or the full transition. And I think that's why so many people might look at someone like me and um, or you or and say, oh well, everything's just so negative or pessimistic, but really what it is, it's contrast. I mean, you have, it's like I said, things used to have such great quality. If I could have told you, yeah, our old stuff had quality. Now it doesn't have any quality. There's no quality anymore. It's like, yeah, that's a fact. That's a true statement. And the thing about the thing about us is we have, we've survived to this point, but we also have this. Um, we kind of have these characters that they're hard to it's hard to fabricate us. It's hard to um, mimic us. It's hard to really try and have replicate us. It's very hard to do. It's hard to fake what we're doing, and like what you said, we can't put on acts. We can't be fake about things, and that's why people might have certain outtakes on something, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, it's like if I've been positive, been optimistic my whole life, and then I get to a point and it's just like I see where humanity is, and it's just like, okay, at what point do I, it's like I have to just change my ways because the world just isn't doing it for me anymore. That's basically where I'm at, because it's like at this point, it's like, what do you really do? I mean, we are, you really have to look at it like, what do you really do? I mean, um, and there's not enough. There's not enough people right now that should be. There's enough people. Like I said, there should be more people on like YouTube and making content, but there's like I said, there's not enough people that want to really connect the dots. They kind of just want to focus in on honing on one thing, and that's fine. But if you do that, you're just going to remain stagnant. You're not going to really do anything in life because you're just going to talk about something, and you can be 100% right and I can agree with you, but no one looks at anything as an agenda. And when you start to look at something as an agenda, and you start to see things, then you can start to do other things and start to make other changes. But there's too many people that are they've just, I don't know, they don't see it, they don't care. So it's like um you have to just see it as, yeah, it's to this point, it's like, yeah, it doesn't look like people are ever going to get it, like they're ever going to figure it out. But um it kind of just comes down to, like you said, it just comes down to us, because that's all we can do, whatever we do with the rest of our lives, how much time we have left. And it shouldn't ever be about like, oh well, it's you should think like this, you should think like that. It's like, well, I don't think there should be a minimizing of thinking. I think there should be a maximizing of thinking. I just, people don't think enough. They don't think outside the box. They're not upward minded, and unfortunately, that's what always comes back to get people. Because if you just took the time to, I mean, look at a small trend and to see where it's going. I mean, it's just every little thing you look at everyone should be pointing the finger towards the right thing. And to be at this point and to still not have it. I mean, yeah, anyone has a brain, has, basic logic is going to look and say, yeah, it's not looking good. It looks like we're fucked. But at the same time, it's like, well, we're still here, so we just got to do what we can. I mean, it is pretty much to that point. I mean, we're in the closing stages uh, at this point of that, because um, the way the world is going, um, and like you were saying too, like how people might perceive us as we're being too awkward, or it's almost kind of like it's kind of in a way like it's like you're almost kind of dead inside. It's like you're trying to. Some people are just they're too happy, they're too live, they're too
Yeah.
full of life, and it's just like I'm just sitting here like, and I'm just you know living in the dreary, trying to have my own like you know positive outtake, but this person's just like totally in la la land. That's what I see. That's what I said. Like there's too many people that are just they're just in la la land out here. I don't know what it is. But I think that's what it comes down to. I just think that we have something people don't, and if you can just kind of be yourself and then not worry about you know other people judging you or saying this, saying that, it's just like people can think they're going to be optimistic all they want because they can make a bunch of money. Well, it's like, okay, if I had a bunch of money, what's that going to change? I'm not buying a Tesla. I don't care about having some big rich fancy car. I don't care about some big rich fancy house, some big rich fancy mansion. It's just like, um, I care about the little things in life at this point. That's kind of really, I think, the way I kind of am wrapping this up here. It's kind of just like the way I live my life now. It's like I just live for the small things, just the little things in life. These days, just taking the smallest thing and just being happy with it, living to not really living to like live like because those days they're dead, they're gone, it's over, and I've just accepted it. But it's just like I'm just kind of like, well, I'm still here. I can still do this. I'm still working on this, trying to progress here, progress there, and you know, do the things that make me happy. Go to the gym, go to the trampoline park, go for a run. Get some exercise. Just um, learn something new. I guess that's kind of the little things how I look at life and get through life right now. Not looking forward to our future, our demise that's been planned our whole lives that we've been calling out, spotting out, but just hanging in the moment. And I think that's really all you can really do these days, just hang in the moment day by day.
Well put. And yeah, we are facing an epidemic of tunnel vision for sure. And you know, I think we both in this episode admitted to our own tunnel vision, and we're not here to put ourselves above anybody. We're here to hopefully equalize more than anything else. Like I've said multiple times, I want as many people with me as possible. I am not looking to separate at all. Like it sucks that it looks that way, but I'll try to stay more positive on that aspect. But I think you closed us out really well there, and I think you had a lot of profound takes this episode. I'm proud of you. This one, this was a good one. Fun to talk to you about this kind of stuff. And if you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Get involved with. Tell us whatever you thought about this episode, or what we talked about, and where you see the world headed. Where you can get a little bit metaphysical, post-apocalyptic. You can do whatever you want with it. You freestyle this bitch. Just hit us up in the comments, and then there's always our email as well. If you have any ideas for the show, want to get involved with it, whatever, hit us up on there. But until next week, everybody, have a great one. Later.
Peace.